Sui greeted her brothers excitedly, clearly missing home. I greeted my brothers-in-law respectfully. The brothers chatted with Sui as they walked home, I following with my bike. I formally addressed my in-laws, having married into the family. Despite my past life, I remained calm. Old man Huang, now recovered, chatted aimlessly with me to pass the time. Sui went to the kitchen with her mother, while her brothers joined me. By noon, the brothers' attitude had warmed significantly, likely having verified that the Su family treated their sister well. The boys spent a day in the mountains for this meal, bagging pheasants, rabbits, and a sika deer. They even went to town for good liquor. The brother produced a bottle of Wuliangya, a luxury item costing 5 yuan and requiring ration coupons. For context, the Huang family had only gifted 3 yuan at my wedding. This bottle was a massive gesture, equivalent to a significant sum in modern terms. Such a gift was usually reserved for high-level favors, showing how much they valued me. I felt the pressure. Big brother, this is too much for a simple family meal. I realized their generosity was a silent plea. Treat our daughter well. It's your first visit, it only happens once. Sit down. The feast was grand, complete with meat, poultry, steamed buns, and firecrackers. I was touched by the brothers' devotion to their sister. As the only girl in 3 generations, Sui was cherished by the entire clan. The extended family joined the feast, filling the house. The sika deer stew was a rare treat, and the cousins ate with gusto. They maintained decorum despite their hunger. Easy now, the eldest brother joked. This meat is potent. You unmarried boys might not sleep tonight. The room erupted in laughter. Sui rolled her eyes at her brother, blushing. My recent care had left Sui glowing with newfound vitality. I was captivated, wishing I could whisk her away to show her my watch. At 2:30 p.m., I prepared to leave. So soon? Sanchuan isn't far. The brothers were reluctant to let their sister go so quickly. I need to visit the library in town and wanted to take Sui along. Town? No, you go. Leave our sister here. Sui agreed to stay a while longer, so I left alone. I biked to town, returning my carpentry books. Comrade, here is my card and the books. The librarian recognized me. Few borrowed technical carpentry books. Ah, it's you. Let me check them. The master inspected the books for damage. Perfect. Refund or keep the deposit. I want books on training eagles. Are you a hunter? The librarian guessed my profession based on my address near the mountains. More or less. Do you have any? Follow me. These are rare, but I might find something. Many books had been sealed away during the Four Olds campaign, making the library's collection limited. You're lucky. These 2, one on bird habits, one on training eagles, are old but invaluable. Take care of them. I thanked him profusely. Keep the deposit? I left the deposit, planning to return soon. Thank you, I'll be going now. I left the library, my bag heavy with books. I cycled back toward Huangjia village, intending to pick up Huang Sui before returning to Sanchuan. Leaving the county town, I felt watched. I scanned the crowd, but seeing no one specific, I shook off the feeling and continued my journey. Shortly after, several men appeared where I had parked. Boss, that kid is sharp. We almost got caught. He's a hunter, of course he's alert. Follow him and find out where he lives. Understood. 2 men mounted their bikes and trailed me from a distance. Su, you cost us a finger in our jobs. You're a dead man. The leader glared at my retreating figure. Did you leave any traces at the state-run restaurant? The man turned, and a subordinate stammered. Don't worry, Dao Yi. I was very discreet. Dao Yi was one of the thugs who had harassed Su Xiaoya. He worked security for the black market and knew the importance of anonymity. Because they had revealed their faces during the harassment, they were deemed liabilities to the black market. For breaking rules and owing money to the fox, they were forced to do dirty work. One had even lost a finger as a warning. After settling their debts, they were free, but the crimes they committed for the black market carried heavy prison sentences. All because of me. They couldn't touch the black market, but they could certainly target me. I, unaware of the threat, assumed I was safe. I doubted Boss Yang's driver would mobilize a large force against me. I reached Huangjia village, picked up Huang Sui, and returned home without incident, my anxiety easing. The 2 thugs watched Sanchuan before heading back to the county. Dao Yi, the kid lives in Sanchuan, but there's something you should know. Dao Yi snapped, spit it out. His subordinates feared him now, unlike months ago when they barely respected him. After their stint with the black market, the trio joined Hong Dakue, the thug who had coerced Lai Tu-san to frame Su Bin. Hong Dakue ran gambling and protection rackets with about 50 men. The trio joined him because Hong needed ruthless men, and they were desperate. Dao Yi, the kid's older brother, is Sheng Guer from the county high school. He's a tough guy. Sheng Guer never joined the underworld, but he was legendary for defending his school. He had once led students against thugs, famously fighting off attackers at the school gate, earning him a fearsome reputation. Though many tried to recruit him, he stayed out of the life, yet he maintained enough connections that people avoided provoking him. Sheng Guer? If this were months ago, I'd care. But now we work for Hong Dakue. Debts must be paid. The next day, I prepared to train the young eagle, eager to test my new skills. Before I could start, a man stumbled through my door. It was a village youth. Su Lao-san, hurry to the fields. Your wife is being harassed by thugs. I rarely worked the fields, leaving it to my family. Huang Sui had been working alongside them for the past few days. What? Who? I grabbed my rifle and rushed out. Gosheng, explain. Gosheng was a childhood friend known for exaggerating, but I couldn't afford to ignore this. I raced toward the fields, determined to protect my wife regardless of the truth. I don't know who they are. There are 10 of them. Sheng Guer saw them and stepped in, but they're brutal. I ran to get you. Did you call the militia? No, I'll go now. Gosheng ran off. I sprinted, knowing the militia patrol was likely elsewhere. I reached the scene in minutes, my speed far exceeding a normal man's. Bang! A gunshot rang out, followed by a rapid-fire sequence. I fired before even arriving, determined to make them pay for attacking my brother and the villagers. 10 shots rang out. Su Sheng and the others watched in shock as the attackers collapsed with leg wounds. The remaining 5 dropped their blades in terror, freezing as my bullets kicked up dust at their feet. I closed the 100-meter gap instantly. The militia arrived shortly after, drawn by the gunfire. Get down. Don't move, or I'll kill you. The militia quickly secured the area. Sui, where's Sui? I shouted. Don't worry, she's just drugged. She's being looked after over there. I rushed to her, relieved to find her breathing steadily and unharmed. I turned to see my brother, Su Sheng, stumbling, supported by his wife, Li Xiuqin. Brother, are you hurt? I rushed to support Su Sheng, who was covered in 3 knife wounds and bruises. Su Sheng had been working nearby and rushed in unarmed to save the girl. He had held off a dozen men, injuring several, a feat even a Sanda champion would struggle to match. I'm fine, just blood loss. Get him to the hospital. Find the village head and a cart. The villagers sprang into action, fetching a donkey cart and the barefoot doctor, Liu Kai. Rip! I tore my clothes to bandage Su Sheng's wounds while Li Xiuqin wept. The remaining 5 attackers tried to flee, but the enraged villagers swarmed them, beating them mercilessly. Third brother, don't worry. It's just external trauma. I've had worse. Su Sheng struggled to stand. His leg had been struck by a club, and though he didn't know if it was broken, the pain was now becoming unbearable. I settled him down, then charged at the gang. Seeing the gun in my hand, the villagers panicked and snatched it away to prevent a tragedy. I didn't lash out at the elder who took the gun. Despite the villagers' efforts, they were no match for these professional thugs. Calm down, Su Lao-san. Don't throw your life away. Let the public security handle them. I've already sent for them. Lu Yuji rushed over, handing her daughter-in-law to a neighbor, terrified her son might commit murder in his rage. I won't kill them, just ask a few questions. I shoved past the crowd and kicked the nearest thug. I unleashed a flurry of powerful kicks, dropping every single thug before they could react. I locked eyes with the leader, whose demeanor stood out from the rest. Stepping on the man's chest, I produced a dagger and plunged it into the man's thigh. The sickening sound made the villagers recoil. I ask, you answer. Understand. I twisted the blade slightly, eliciting a blood-curdling scream from the thug. Who sent you? It was Liu Dao. Please, let me go. I'll never do it again. Liu Dao? Who is that? Do I even know him? I had initially thought this was a random harassment case, but the organized nature of the 15-man squad proved it was a calculated hit. The thug was stunned by my ignorance. Huzi, who had just arrived, overheard the name Liu Dao. Who is this Liu Dao, and why target Huang Sui? Huzi demanded. Since I didn't know the man, Huzi sought to identify their backers to deduce the motive. We work for Boss Koei in the county town. Please, your beef is with Li Yudao and his 2 friends, not us. Huzi's interest peaked at the mention of 3 men. 3 of them? Describe them. They needed to confirm the identities of the trio behind the grudge. How did you identify my wife? I pressed. When no one answered, I threatened the thug with the blade again, forcing a confession. It was Ma Lu. He tracked you and recognized her. Ma Lu tried to protest, but Huzi silenced him with a few swift kicks. That's enough, Suyu. The police are coming. Put the knife away. The village had arrived, and they loaded the injured onto a donkey cart to head to the county hospital. Uncle Yukai, how are they? I asked. Your wife is just drugged and will wake up soon. Your brother lost blood, but he'll be fine. I told the lightly injured villagers to follow the cart to the hospital. I handed 300 yuan to my mother to cover medical costs and food for the helpers. I was deeply grateful. Without their help, I couldn't have handled 15 armed men alone. I urged Li Xiuqin to join them at the hospital to ease her worries. Yuji, it's those 3 punks from when we saved the educated youth, Huzi reported. They lost their jobs and a finger because of our fight, and they're out for revenge. Huzi had interrogated Ma Lu, who confirmed he was Li Yudao's lackey. Huzi's father, a militia member, didn't stop his son, signaling the village's support for me. The mention of Su Xiaoya caused a stir in the crowd. Quiet. The police are here. Su Daqiang bellowed, silencing the crowd as the police arrived. The officer recognized me from our previous encounter. I recalled the officer was the Public Security Bureau I'd helped before. Officer, thank you for your hard work. I remained polite despite my anger. I knew I had to be careful since I had used a firearm. The legal outcome depended heavily on the police report, so I had to play this carefully. I shook the officer's hand firmly. Don't worry, kid. We heard what happened. You acted in self-defense against an armed mob. You won't be in trouble. I stayed behind to avoid looking like I was fleeing the scene. Take the suspects to the station. You need to come with us too, kid. I agreed, telling my brother Lao Si to look after the family. As I left, Huzi grabbed his own knife and 2 rifles, heading straight for the police station. Huzi knew I would go after Li Yudao, and he intended to back me up. If a fight was coming, he was ready to face it head-on. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Huang Sui had regained consciousness. Su Sheng's wounds were being treated for the 3rd time. Huzi arrived at the station just as I was walking out. Carrying rifles openly was risky, as even civilian-grade weapons were strictly regulated. Huzi's blatant display of weaponry was highly irregular. Why are you here, Huzi? I brought the gear. Shenguer is hurt. I'm sticking with you. Brother Daong arrived, sent by 3rd uncle to ensure I didn't do anything reckless. Don't do anything stupid. The police are handling it. Don't ruin your own future. Huzi was interrupted and turned to see Su Daong, the son of my 3rd uncle, instantly losing his temper. Brother Yong, Hong Dakue bullies outsiders, but he dares to target locals too? We have plenty of village youth. If Brother Yu gives the word, I'll go to the village chief. We shouldn't take this lying down. Despite strict regulations against private business and premarital intimacy, the village's collective spirit remained incredibly strong. Shut up. You think the village chief will join your nonsense? Leave it to the public security. If they can't handle it, I, Su Daong, won't stand by while my brother is bullied. I, now calmer, patted Huzi's shoulder. Enough. Let's go to the hospital. Brother Yong, please head to Huangjia village to inform them so we don't have to explain later. Su Daong nodded and rode off to Huangjia village, while I and Huzi headed to the hospital. Brother Yu, I'm carrying a gun, so I'll wait outside. I can't stand the smell of disinfectant. I nodded and rushed into the hospital while Huzi waited by the flower bed. I found the ward. Suyu, did you handle things at home? Lu Yuji knew I had been dealing with the aftermath since Su's father was away. Yes. Mother, how is Su? Lu Yuji stepped aside. For people were in the room, including Huang Sui and my older brother. I sat by Huang Sui's bed. How are you feeling? Better. I felt nauseous and had a headache from the ether, but the 4 is helping. Don't worry. I stroked her hair, then checked on my brother. I'm fine, just minor injuries. I'll be out in 3 days, my brother said. I asked, are you sure your bones are okay? The doctor said he's lucky. No fractures, just needs observation to prevent infection. Listen to your wife, brother. Don't push yourself. We can afford the medical bills. The door burst open as Huang Shan carried his father in, followed by Huang Hai and Su Daong with Huang Sui's mother. Sui, are you all right? Seeing her family, Huang Sui fought back tears, smiling despite the presence of her in-laws. I'm fine, father. Brother Su Sheng took the brunt of the attack to protect me. The Huang family looked at Su Sheng, who lay shirtless, his chest, abdomen, and legs heavily bandaged. It looked gruesome, but while it was a minor injury for him, it would still keep him bedridden for months. The Huang family, being reasonable, immediately went to comfort him, their expressions softening. Suyu, come outside. Brother, what are you doing? Huang Sui tried to get up, but Huang Shan stopped her with a smile. Silly girl, stop worrying. I'm not going to hurt your husband. I just need to ask about the attackers. He turned to me, his face cold. Come out. Lu Yuji held Huang Sui back, knowing this confrontation was inevitable. Brother, thud. Outside the hospital, Huang Shan kicked me square in the chest, sending me flying. I landed in the small forest of ornamental trees. Cough, cough. I stood up, rubbing my chest. Huang Shan had used a controlled strike, powerful, but not intended to kill. I could have dodged, but I chose not to. Brother, you. Big guy, what are you doing? Huzi, having seen the scene, ran over, raising his gun. Huzi, put the gun down. I commanded. Huang Shan's kick was fierce, but he hadn't used his full strength. Otherwise, I would have had broken ribs. My physique was above average, but I couldn't compete with a trained giant like Huang Shan. Huang Shan ignored Huzi, glaring at me. She's been married less than a week. If not for your past kindness and her love for you, I'd take her back right now. Fix this mess yourself. If she gets hurt again because of you, I'll deal with you before I finish off those scumbags. I sensed the genuine killing intent in Huang Shan's eyes, directed at the attackers. I realized why no one dared bully Huang Sui. With brothers like these, even the village chief would think twice. Why hit him? If you're so tough, go find Hong Dakawei. Huzi shouted. Huzi, shut up, I said, grabbing him. Brother, I promise I won't let those who hurt Sui go unpunished. Huang Shan was satisfied by my willingness to take responsibility. Fine, I'll watch your performance. Tell me what happened. I silenced Huzi to prevent a messy, exaggerated retelling. I gave a direct account of the events, omitting nothing. So, you intervened when they harassed a female youth, offended them at the black market, and now they're retaliating? I nodded. Huang Shan agreed that defending the girl was the right thing to do. The escalation at the black market was unfortunate, but not entirely my fault. Bullies. Why don't they go after the fox instead? Pathetic. Huang Shan despised their cowardly tactics of targeting family members. Where are those three? I realized Huang Shan intended to intervene personally. Brother, leave this to me. Public security is already after Hong Dakawei. If you get involved now, it will only complicate the legal process. Let's wait. Huang Shan studied me, then relented, not wanting to cause trouble for his sister. After she's discharged, she stays at her parents' house until you've settled this. Agreed. Huang Sui only suffered from ether exposure and would be discharged by evening. Huang Shan insisted on taking her home to recover, wanting to protect his sister personally. No problem. I'll resolve this within a week and give you and Sui a proper explanation. I took full responsibility without making excuses. Huang Shan appreciated this directness, despising those who shirked blame. Don't carry it all alone. You still have a brother-in-law here. Just speak up if you need help. Huang Shan patted my shoulder, reaffirming his approval of the man he'd once hunted with. I won't do anything reckless. Let's go. My wife must be worried. I calmed Huzi, dusted myself off, and followed Huang Shan back into the ward. The family watched them intently, causing both men to feel slightly awkward. What are you looking at? I didn't beat him, Huang Shan joked, pushing me toward the bed. Huang Sui whispered to me, and Lu Yuji breathed a sigh of relief seeing me unharmed. Where is his father? Does he know? The mother-in-law asked. Lu Yuji replied. It was an emergency. We haven't had a chance to tell him yet. I stood up and signaled for Brother Daong. Daong, go buy some food for the villagers. They're bruised and hungry. They shouldn't leave empty-handed. Lu Yuji handed Su Daong 50 yuan. Buy the best, and get some good cigarettes too. Daong and Huzi left immediately. By the time they returned, The villagers had been treated for minor cuts and bruises. Su Sheng was the most injured, having faced 15 men alone while unarmed to protect the others. Without formal training, Su Sheng had simply held his ground through sheer grit until help arrived. The villagers ate dumplings and braised pork, a rare treat Daong had secured at a premium. After the meal, everyone received a pack of high-quality filtered cigarettes. Thank you all for your help. I've prepared a red envelope for each of you to take home for your families. I handed out 7 envelopes, each containing 10 yuan. This was a significant sum, meant to ensure that if trouble arose again, the villagers would be willing to stand by me. Generosity builds loyalty. Without it, people might hesitate to face overwhelming odds. By establishing a reputation for rewarding my allies, I ensured my future influence. Please, take it. It's just a small token of my gratitude for your support. They accepted the envelopes, sure to be shocked by the contents later. Beyond immediate gratitude, I was cultivating my status in the village for future agricultural ventures. After some polite insistence, the villagers accepted the gifts and departed. The others were discharged, leaving only Su Sheng and Huang Sui in the hospital. Sui, your discharge is ready. Go home with your brother. I'll pick you up in a few days. The family escorted the Huangs out, with Daong and Huzi providing transport. Sister-in-law, stay and look after the eldest brother. I'll be back tomorrow. I left the hospital and headed straight for the commercial district. I arrived at the mall, not to shop, but to find a specific contact. Lu Zi, long time no see. I greeted the man who had previously sold me a rifle. Lu Zi was startled but relaxed upon seeing me, despite the illicit nature of his business. It's you. Where's your friend? Lu Zi assumed I needed more ammunition, noting my improved marksmanship. He found it reasonable that I would return for cheaper, off-the-books ammo. Have you eaten? Let me treat you to a hot pot. Lu Zi was suspicious but hungry, and he didn't fear a countryman in his own territory. He agreed, curious about my true intentions. Brother, what's this about? I can't eat if I don't know the agenda. Lu Zi knew there were no free lunches in his line of work. Don't worry. I just want to ask some questions and buy something from you. I gestured for a pistol, a much more sensitive item than a rifle. I see. Let's go then. I know a good spot. They rode off together to a hot pot restaurant. They ordered lamb and vegetables, sharing drinks and conversation. They smoked and drank, establishing a casual rapport. All right, Sue, ask whatever you want. I'll tell you what I know. I began probing for information about the black market and local power players. I asked scattered questions to mask my true objective, which Lu Zi noted but didn't mind. Lu Zi didn't care about the motive, provided the money was good. As a street-level operator, Lu Zi had extensive connections and information. Be careful. If you're planning to move against the black market, think twice. They have powerful backers. Lu Zi warned that even with a gun, I was out of my depth. I'm not that foolish. I'm just gathering info. Now, what about that pistol? If you'd asked earlier, I'd have nothing. But today, you're in luck. Lu Zi pulled a Colt M1911 pistol from his briefcase and placed it on the hot pot table, unconcerned about onlookers. Colt M1911, .45 ACP, 7-round magazine, 50-meter effective range. It's a top-tier piece. I wouldn't have brought it out for anyone else. I was stunned. I recognized the weapon well, as it remained in service until my previous life. How much? How many rounds of ammo? 1,500, non-negotiable. I can give you 6 boxes of ammo. I can source more later, but it'll cost more than rifle rounds. I'll take it. I pretended to reach into my pocket, actually withdrawing the 1,500 from my system space, and handed it over. The man didn't even count it, implying he knew exactly how much was there. A pleasure doing business. You got a deal. This is a hot item, unlike those Nambu pistols. I didn't haggle. A pistol was perfect for self-defense. Rifles were too cumbersome and required manual cycling, which hindered my reaction time. Since I didn't haggle, how about a bonus? Maybe an extra magazine. Lu Zi paused, then laughed, realizing I knew there had to be more than one magazine. Fine, take one more. I loaded both magazines and stashed them, along with the ammo, into my system space. That's it for today. I'm heading out. Having gathered enough info and secured my weapon, I wasn't worried about leaks. The man only knew my surname, and the gun was safely hidden in my space. I left the restaurant. leaving Lu Zi to count his money with a grin. 300 for mom, 1,500 for the gun. Spent 1,800 total, 3,200 remaining from the 5,000. I didn't regret it. A pistol was essential for survival against threats where a rifle would be too slow or impractical in tight quarters. As a reborn person, I knew I could still die from a fatal wound. I wouldn't gamble on the system saving me. I preferred to be prepared. I went to the town police station to check on the investigation. Comrade Su, Hong Dakue, claims he knew nothing of Li Yotsai's actions. Li was just a recent associate who paid well. Hong has witnesses proving he wasn't involved in your wife's kidnapping. Li Yukai has fled. He likely had informants and bolted after the failed kidnapping at Sanchuan. We're hunting him down. I felt vindicated in buying the gun. It was better to be armed against hidden threats. Thank you. Please notify me immediately. I left, frustrated. I visited Su Sheng at the hospital. Brother, do you know anyone with good connections? Su Sheng understood immediately. I was going to bypass the police and use the underworld. I know people, but don't do anything reckless. Despite Su Sheng's worry, I pressed him until he provided a contact. I bought cigarettes and alcohol, prepared a 200 yuan red envelope, and went to the contact's home. A muscular man in his 30s opened the door, clearly a martial artist. Who are you looking for? I'm Su Yu, Su Sheng's brother. You must be Peng Dali. Su Sheng's brother? Come in. Don't worry about gifts. If I can help, I will. If I can't, gifts won't change that. I didn't take this at face value. I knew I had to earn the favor. I placed the red envelope on the gift box. I heard you have wide connections. I need help finding someone. You know what I do for a living, right? I nodded. Fine. Give me the name. I'll let you know if I find anything. I named Li Yukai. Peng Dali agreed to have news within 3 days. I left, retrieved my watch from my space, and put it back on. Peng Dali was a famous pickpocket boss in the county, commanding over 100 subordinates across the city. He and Su Sheng were acquaintances by chance, a product of their era, though they followed their own underworld code. Good, the watch is still here. I rode off. I trusted the 3-day timeline. These people were excellent at gathering intel for their own. These pickpockets were well connected with local riffraff. While looked down upon by others, a boss like Dali was not to be trifled with. Su Sheng had warned me. Dali was skilled, and I should hide my valuables, as these people had professional habits. I went home to wait, convinced the culprit would eventually resurface. 2 days later, a message arrived. Go to Dali's courtyard. I rushed over. Dali, any news? Dali pulled an envelope from his pocket and slammed it on the table. As I reached for it, another man pinned it down. Know the rules. We spent 2 days on this. You think you can just walk away with it because you know our boss? San, shut up. Let him take it. I realized this was a stage performance to demand a favor without Dali losing face. I understood. Our relationship was superficial, and they weren't obligated to help for free. Dali, I can't insult you by offering money again. How about this? I'll host a hot pot feast for you and your men later. Feeding 100 people was expensive, but it was a gesture of respect. Dali accepted, pleased that I understood the social dance. It saved Dali's reputation. He couldn't appear greedy, but he couldn't be seen as a pushover either. Fine. You're a stand-up guy. 3 days from now, you pay. I picked the place. We're friends. I didn't want to be friends with a thief, but I valued the utility of their network. I didn't want a deep connection, but I was happy to let Dali believe we were becoming close. In the underworld, face was everything. Playing along made everyone happy. I took the envelope. Inside was an address. Not in the county, but in a rural village. Did that brat hide in the countryside? How did you find him? Everyone has their own tricks. I've helped others track people before, so I have some experience. This was the man who had just pressed the envelope and spoken to me. Friend, need help? Since Dali says you're a friend, we're brothers now. If you have trouble, just ask. We'll definitely help. I didn't trust them. Dealing with this crowd based on honor was fine, but I knew better than to rely on their word. No need. I'll handle it myself. Goodbye, Brother Dali. I left, watched by the 2 men. Boss, why is he looking for Li Yudao? That guy's a hoodlum targeted by the police. Even Hong Dakue was questioned. Is he chasing a gambling debt? Dali glanced at him. Don't pry. Focus on our own business. The police are active lately. Tell your boys to lay low. Understood, boss. To be safe, I took my rifle into the mountains to upgrade my combat skills to level 9, the level of a human grandmaster, rare in any nation. Even legends like Long or Jiang Xinjia, though past their prime, had once reached this untouchable peak. Level 9 is truly grandmaster tier. National champions would be mere novices before me. After half a day of effort, I returned with 800 pounds of game, unseen by anyone. Open system. Host, I-19. Physique, 25. Strength, 35. Speed, 25. Stamina, 30. Storage, 3 cubic meters. Skills, fishing LV3, archery limit break LV1, tracking LV7, dog training LV1, Krav Maga LV9, butchery LV7, rock climbing LV7, marksmanship LV8, carpentry LV5, parkour LV7, skill points, 0, level 9 was enough, especially with my Krav Maga, a military-grade essential. My physical stats had also improved. Martial arts training provided the most balanced growth. Third brother, why so much game? I was bored, so I went hunting. Mom, keep the wild boars for big brother to recover. I'll sell the rest. I loaded the game onto a wooden board strapped to my bicycle, struggling to keep the front wheel down due to the weight. Can you handle that? Maybe ask the old party secretary to borrow the donkey cart. No, Mom. If I borrow the cart again, the village will gossip. It's not far. I'll just go slow. Lu Yuji agreed. Her son was capable, but jealousy was real in the village. Since I was strong, I could manage. Should Huzi go with you? No, I can handle it. I left, intentionally showing off the heavy load to the villagers. I feigned difficulty pushing the bike, greeting everyone as I passed. Go back, Mom. It's 9:20 a.m. I'll be back by 2. Once out of sight, I moved the game into my space and rode off quickly. I was selling game, but my real goal was Li Yudao. I needed an alibi before potentially confronting him. Without surveillance, I had to rely on timing. I had made sure everyone knew I left at 9:20 a.m. I pedaled furiously toward Xianyang village. The trip took over an hour at high speed. Near the village, I stored my bike and donned my mask, hat, and gloves. I snuck in, expecting 3 targets. Taking them down silently in broad daylight would be difficult. I chose daytime specifically to do the unexpected. I confirmed their location by grabbing a stray chicken and tossing it into their yard. As expected, a man came out to investigate, confirming the target. I changed into my gear and crept closer. The men laughed as they caught the chicken and headed to the kitchen. I vaulted the wall, entered the kitchen, and knocked the man out with a single strike. I checked the other rooms. Only the 3 targets were present. I walked into the main room, startling the 2 playing cards. Who are you? They assumed I was a local, but I moved instantly. I punched the speaker in the head, knocking him cold. Li Yudao realized who it was and grabbed a knife from under the table. I kicked him in the chest, sending him crashing into the table. Before he could recover, a whip kick to the neck silenced him. All 3 were neutralized in moments. I considered killing them, as I had the skill to do so without evidence. But I decided against it. I needed to send a message that couldn't be ignored. I decided on a brutal alternative. I tied them up, gagged them, and dislocated their jaws before drawing my dagger. I knew the risks, like having asked Dolly for their address, but I didn't care. I systematically severed their hand and foot tendons and cut out their tongues. They were incapacitated and unable to speak or fight back. The pain woke them, but the gags prevented any outcry. I left, sold my game at the steel mill, and then visited the police station. I reported Li Yudao's location, citing my source honestly to avoid suspicion. Thank you, Comrade Suyu. We will arrange the arrest immediately. The police hadn't heard the news yet. I checked my watch and left after they declined my offer of a meal. I knew I might be a suspect, but my timeline was airtight. I had witnesses seeing me push the heavy load, making it impossible for me to have committed the crime in that window. I knew my operation had flaws, making me the prime suspect. However, given the era's lack of forensic technology, the statute of limitations would expire long before I could be linked to the crime. I had taken every precaution, changing my gear to leave no trace. I never underestimated my enemies. Even if suspected, who in this isolated, low-information era would believe I possessed the martial prowess to neutralize 3 men alone? Returning home in the afternoon, I finally rested. I reviewed my books and began training the young eagle, while Heisey the dog circled me. I disciplined the eagle, following the manual to break its pride and establish a simple system of signals, much like training a dog. I taught the bird to respond to whistles, using the same Pavlovian conditioning I used for Heisey, associating a specific sound with a reward. Eagles are proud and far harder to train than dogs, but a well-trained raptor is an invaluable hunting companion. Historical records suggest ancient Mongols used eagles for reconnaissance. The birds would shriek upon spotting enemies, ensuring no target could escape the high-altitude pursuit. This was far superior to tracking by scent. An eagle's eyes could automatically lock onto moving targets from the sky, spotting prey like rabbits with ease. I trained for hours without a system notification. I realized that to unlock skills, I would need to demonstrate tangible results. Just as I needed to actually spear a fish or hit a live target to progress, I had to successfully command the eagle to earn the skill. Though progress was slow, I remained patient. That afternoon, 2 public security officers knocked on my door. I knew Li Yudao had been found. "Officers, have you caught Li Yudao?" The older officer, accompanied by a younger apprentice, scrutinized me. Before knocking, they had checked with neighbors about my fighting ability. They learned I had once been bullied by Lai San and paid off, which made my current calm demeanor seem genuine. At under 20, they doubted I had the depth to be a cold-blooded culprit. They hadn't checked with Dongshega, where my true strength was known, so they remained skeptical of my involvement. "Just got back from selling game in town," I explained, avoiding the stigma of being an unemployed loafer. I invited them in, maintaining a hospitable front. I served tea, a luxury few in Sanchuan possessed. I asked eagerly, "Did you catch Li Yudao? Are they going to labor reform for the kidnapping?" My performance was flawless. The officers failed to realize they were dealing with a man of 2 lifetimes' worth of psychological maturity. The officers exchanged glances. "We found Li Yudao," the younger one said. "But the situation has changed. We need your cooperation." He was incapacitated, tendons severed, tongue cut out. I feigned shock. "His tongue? What kind of grudge would cause that?" I quickly regained my composure. "Why are you asking me? You don't suspect me, do you?" I remained perfectly unruffled. "It's routine. You provided the address, yet Peng Dali said you knew it earlier. Why wait until today to report it?" I admired their logical deduction. They were sharp despite the lack of modern tech. I had anticipated this. "I got the info, but by the time I walked to the station, you were nearly off duty." I decided to sell my game first and report it the next morning. Li Yudao wasn't going anywhere. My timeline held up, as I had indeed arrived near closing time. The officers were testing my urgency, but my indifference was a plausible, if eccentric, personality trait. They couldn't use my lack of haste as evidence. It was merely a curiosity. Understood. Any other questions? I asked if Li Yudao would still be prosecuted. Even with severed tendons, he wasn't beyond the reach of the law. He would be crippled, but not paralyzed. He could still stand and walk with effort. After seeing them out, I exhaled. The officers were convinced I wasn't the culprit. They concluded that Li Yudao's criminal history and black market ties had earned him many enemies. They assumed a rival had struck. Li Yudao's past crimes were coming to light, ensuring a long sentence. The police focused on the black market as the likely culprit for the mutilation, shifting all suspicion away from me. In the 1970s, such violence, while brutal, was common in street disputes and often went unsolved. Li Yudao was a small-time thug. His suffering was of little concern to the authorities. To ensure the job was done, I had spent significant points upgrading my combat skills to level 9. I had worked hard in the forest to accumulate those points, hunting large game. Because I focused on large, rare kills, my total points remained under 100 despite the 800 pounds of meat. The next day, I retrieved my wife, Huang Sui, from her parents' home, bringing gifts to appease her father. In town, I confirmed that Li Yudao was facing over a decade in prison for his black market activities and the kidnapping. The police remained fixated on the black market, viewing the tongue-cutting as a warning to keep him quiet. Relieved, I treated my wife to a meal before heading home. Huang Sui felt safe knowing her tormentors were imprisoned. "How can people be so evil?" she wondered. I comforted her. Though I hadn't needed my pistol, I felt the preparation was worth the peace of mind. I had sold the 800 pounds of game for nearly 700 yuan, settling for market rates to expedite the sale. I joked about showing Huang Sui my luminous watch, teasing her until her ears turned red. Despite her protests that it was broad daylight, I insisted, eager to reconnect after her time away. I hurried her into the room and drew the curtains, our reunion intense and immediate. As I lit a cigarette, the passionate encounter came to a close. Huang Sui rested in my arms, content as I held her with one hand and smoked with the other. The post-coital cigarette was truly a blissful experience. Being newlyweds in their honeymoon phase, the couple felt the classic ache of separation even after a short time apart. Huang Sui asked, "How did you find where Li Yukai was hiding?" I had visited the Huang family to explain the situation, but I kept the details of the investigation vague, and they didn't press me. I briefly mentioned that my brother Su Shang's underworld connections had helped, keeping the specifics hidden to avoid unnecessary trouble, not out of distrust. The next day, I met about 50 people at a hot pot restaurant in the city. I raised a glass, saying, "Brother Dolly, thank you for your help. This is for you." Brother Dolly waved me off, insisting they were all brothers and didn't need such formalities. They clinked glasses and finished their drinks in one go. I asked, "Are these all the brothers? I hope I didn't seem stingy by not inviting everyone." Brother Dolly explained that he only brought those of similar age, leaving the younger ones behind as they weren't suitable for this gathering. I accepted this. I was only settling a favor and had no intention of deepening the connection. After the meal, I paid the 200 yuan bill, which was more than enough to treat 50 people lavishly. I saw Brother Dolly and the others off, maintaining a friendly, polite demeanor. In this circle, reputation was everything. I made sure to acknowledge those who came to toast me, memorizing a few faces. "Brother Dolly, I'm heading out. Let's drink again when you're free." I left, keeping my association with these men a secret from my family. I then headed to the hospital to visit Su Shang, who was due to be discharged soon. I brought some treats for my brother, knowing he didn't need medicinal tonics but would appreciate good food. After spending some time there, I bid my brother and sister-in-law farewell. Li Xiuqin walked me to the hospital gate, and I departed. I calculated my finances, 700 from hunting, 200 spent on the meal, leaving 3,500 yuan. I hadn't spent much on food for my brother, and since my mother had returned the unused portion of the medical funds, I remained well off. Back at the village, Uncle Zheng stopped me to talk. Uncle Zheng was embarrassed. His nephew had insisted on filling the yard with extra soil, which delayed the work and caused a budget shortfall. Despite their contract, I didn't make things difficult and handed over the remaining 50 or 60 yuan. "If there's extra, buy the boys some cigarettes and food. I'm busy, so I appreciate your hard work," I said. Uncle Zheng was deeply moved. He had never encountered such a generous employer. "Don't worry, we'll ensure quality and speed. You'll be in your new home in a few days," Uncle Zheng promised. I didn't mind the small cost. I had only used a contract to protect myself. Seeing their extra effort, I was happy to reciprocate. Within 3 days, the house was finished. My requests for fine decoration, tiled floors, cement paths, and white walls had taken extra time, but the result was worth it. Su Sheng had also returned from the hospital, his wounds healing well enough for him to walk. "Dad, Mom, Brother, I'm moving my things to the new house today. It's right next door, so we'll still be over for meals," I announced. I was careful to frame it casually to avoid hurting my family's feelings, especially with my brother just home. Su Sheng agreed. "Let him move, Mom. I'll have Xiuqin help him pack." With the eldest son's approval, Lu Yuji relented. "Fine, but don't think moving out makes you the head of the family. If you dare bully Su Yu's wife, I'll still come for you," she warned. She used this moment to remind him of his responsibilities, especially after the recent family tension. I promised to behave and began moving my belongings the short distance to the new house. I finally had space to display the old furniture I had collected. The pieces, including the tables, were exquisite, crafted from red sandalwood with intricate carvings. "Isn't this a bit rushed? The paint on the walls is still fresh," Su Sheng noted. "It's fine, it dries quickly," I replied. Lu Yuji touched the wall and floor, confirming they were dry and smooth. I had insisted on higher ceilings, anticipating that future standards would favor taller, more spacious rooms. Since I had no neighbors nearby to offend with my house's height, I had free reign. While I lacked the tools for modern ceiling finishes, I wasn't concerned. I avoided anything too ostentatious to avoid looking like a wealthy landlord, keeping the decor tasteful but modest. That evening, I hosted a housewarming dinner for Huzi, Xiangzi, my brothers, and the rest of the family. The main beam was marked with red paper detailing the builder and date, adorned with red chopsticks tied with red string to symbolize harmony and abundance. Congratulations on the new home. May you two live in bliss. It was third uncle's son, Daong, a burly man with a surprisingly eloquent way with words. The yard is leveled, but where's the gate? Need me to help fence it in? I had prioritized height over walls for now, leaving other projects for later. Don't worry, I've already arranged for bricks to build the walls and gates soon. Whether to build the west or south rooms was secondary. The perimeter wall was the priority. With guests gone, I and Huang Sui were alone. My sister remained at the old courtyard for now. Since the sister stayed with their parents, the new home was just for the couple, their dog, and 3 young eagles. Alone at last, I let my guard down. Huang Sui no longer needed to hold back, and they enjoyed a passionate night. I felt relieved. Li Yukai had been sentenced and transferred to prison, where he would receive medical care. The matter was settled. While the era was still cleaning up black market elements and criminals, this specific threat was minor. The next day, Huzi arrived. I, having spent 3 days away from the mountains, was eager to hunt. Seeing Huzi, I knew it was time. I grabbed my gun, bid Huang Sui farewell, and left with Huzi. Huang Sui headed to the old courtyard to join the others for farm work. Lu Yuji now insisted on group movements for the women, with the village party secretary ensuring men were stationed nearby for security. Militia patrols were also redirected to guard the women's work sites to prevent any further incidents. The village women, though unaware of the specific target, grew cautious, especially the young women like Su Jiqing. Deep in the mountains, Huzi asked, "Why bring Heizi today?" I brought the dog to learn through practical experience rather than just training. Real-world hunting, tracking, catching, and feeding the dog the kill is the fastest way to teach a hunting dog. Hunger is the best teacher. By not feeding the dog in the morning, it naturally learns to hunt to satisfy its appetite. Dogs, being descendants of wolves, possess innate hunting instincts. Humans simply facilitate the process. The dog's excitement upon entering the mountains was natural and required no interference. Heizi is growing up. It's time he learned the ropes. Huzi agreed, watching as the dog roamed freely nearby. Won't the gunshot scare him? He'll get used to it, I replied. Like warhorses, animals adapt to noise through repeated exposure. Spotting a rabbit, I fired. Heizi whimpered in fear, prompting me to give him a nudge. You're a wolf dog, stop acting like a coward. I whistled, calling the hesitant dog over. When Heizi approached with his tail tucked, I gave him a firm slap. I fed the dog the rabbit's heart and liver, forcing him to eat despite his nerves. Huzi was surprised by the dog's cowardice, given his wolf dog lineage. He's been coddled by the girls. His killer instinct needs waking up. True hunting dogs need their bloodlust triggered through real encounters. A well-trained dog won't back down from wolves or leopards if its master is present. It's about confidence. The dog needs to feel the master's authority to act. Heizi lacked the instinct to track, failing to alert me before the shot. My goal was to teach the dog to signal silently rather than barking and scaring prey. I wasn't blaming the dog. I was teaching him the rules of the hunt. Without a lead dog to discipline him, I had to take on that role myself. Let's keep going, I said. I led the dog through the process, scenting, tracking, signaling, and finally, the kill. It was a slow process, teaching the dog to signal with low whines instead of noise. Despite my advanced training skills, there was no shortcut to this experience. I spent the entire day teaching rather than hunting for volume. By day's end, Heizi showed progress, learning to stay calm and hidden when prey was near. Huzi spent the day watching me train Heizi. Huzi wanted hunting dogs of his own but lacked the training skills, and his elderly grandfather couldn't assist him in the mountains. He was thrilled at the prospect of me teaching him. I didn't disappoint. Huzi watched as Heizi evolved from a coward into a dog that could handle gunfire, hide from prey, and signal alerts. My dog training skill grew effortlessly as I hunted, allowing me to use points to upgrade my proficiency. Open system. Host. Age, 19. Physique, 25. Strength, 35. Speed, 25. Stamina, 30. Storage, 3 cubic meters. Skills, fishing, 4-3. Archery, limit break 4-1. Tracking, 4-7. Dog training, 4-5. Krav Maga, 4-9. Butchery, 4-7. Rock climbing, 4-7. Marksmanship, 4-8. Carpentry, 4-5. Parkour, 4-7. Skill points, 0. Having boosted dog training to 4-5, I was now skilled enough to train police dogs in the military. While I focused on hunting dogs, I was systematically teaching Heisey the necessary tracking and hunting techniques. Brother, we've got plenty of prey. It's too late to head to the city. We'll have to sell it tomorrow. I agreed. I had spent the day training Heisey by tracking scents. I rewarded the dog with food to reinforce the behavior, knowing that without incentives, a hunting dog would lose its drive. After returning home, I cleaned the catch and brought several pheasants and rabbits to the old courtyard. Third brother, are we eating this tonight? Xiaoya and Yaya ran over. Yaya, though still somewhat reserved from past trauma, was slowly becoming more lively under the influence of my younger sister. My sister was a bundle of energy, and her constant playfulness was helping Yaya shed her shyness. My only goal was to ensure my family lived safely and happily, free from bullying. Third, why bring food when you come to eat? Sister-in-law, I just caught these. I'm not selling them. Let's all have a good meal. Despite only moving out a day ago, the atmosphere felt different. Sister-in-law, I'll help you prep. Huang Sui took the game from me, and the two women headed to the kitchen while I went inside. I ran into Lao Si, who confirmed their father had returned from work after sending money to the grandparents. I sighed. I knew I couldn't stop my father's filial habits without causing a family rift, so I chose to remain silent for now. The family gathered for a meal of spicy rabbit and stir-fried chicken prepared by Huang Sui and Li Xiuqin. As they ate, Su's father cleared his throat. Third, I need to discuss something with you. Su's father explained that he had always used his salary to buy medicine for his parents, who suffered from various ailments. He noted that with his nephew in trouble and his younger son in school, the burden on the eldest uncle's family was heavy, and his salary was barely enough to cover the medicine. I realized the real request was coming. Dad, are you planning to send them our grain too? We agreed you'd cover medical costs while the uncles provided the food. We've never stopped you before. Did the uncles go back on their word? I was frustrated. 5 yuan per person was the poverty line. His father's salary was sufficient if managed correctly. Even with irregular pay, the grandparents were never truly shortchanged. It's not that. Your aunt is jealous of our new house, bicycle, and appliances. She's been making snide remarks about us eating well while the elders eat bran. She complained in front of them, and I'm worried about your reputation, so I panicked, fearing my father had made an impulsive promise. You didn't agree to take over their support, did you? Su's father looked indignant, but denied it. I just thought about sending some of our grain, but since you bought it, I wanted to ask. I was speechless. My father had already committed to the aunt, leaving me in a position where refusing would make them look heartless. Su Sheng and Lu Yuji frowned. Their current comfort was due to my hard work, not a surplus for the father to use as social capital. Lu Yuji slammed her chopsticks down, startling the children. The sisters-in-law quickly ushered the girls to another room. They brought food to the children in the other room. Lao Si, only 14, was terrified and didn't know whether to stay or leave, fearing the family might fall apart. He reached for some meat, but seeing his eldest brother stand up, he quickly pulled his hand back. Dad, are you crazy? You know Aunt is greedy. If you give her grain once, she'll demand it forever and ruin us if we stop. We just started living well. I have my own father-in-law to support. Are you trying to dump the whole family's burden on third? Lao Si sat frozen, intimidated by his brother's authority. Dad, if you had a high salary, I wouldn't care. But you want us to support the uncle who tried to frame me? Do you want to send me to prison for speculation? Are you trying to end our bloodline? Just shoot us now. It's better than being slaves for them. At least a beast gets fodder for its labor. They won't even give you that. Lao Si looked confused, wondering why he was being dragged into this. Lu Yuji finally spoke. Su He, if you want to be a filial son at the cost of our family, then we're done. I haven't been able to visit my own parents because we couldn't afford gifts. Do you think I don't care about that? Su's father hadn't expected such a fierce backlash. He had only felt pressured by his sister-in-law's taunts. He realized his family's improved life was a reality, but he felt guilty seeing his parents eat poorly. Su's father failed to realize two things. His family's success was due to me, not him, and he had no right to sacrifice his children's livelihood to appease his sister-in-law. Sui believed that while his parents wronged his brother, they were still elders. As juniors, they should forgive them. Sui's filial piety was ingrained. He felt ashamed comparing his life to his parents, yet he failed to realize he was treating his son's resources as his own. Many in this era felt entitled to their children's property, believing they should at least have some say in how it was used. Sui felt he could easily spare 40 or 50 pounds of cornmeal from the family's stash, especially since his eldest daughter-in-law also supported her own family. To him, 40 pounds was a pittance compared to the total. He was shocked when his family, including his wife, vehemently opposed him. Given my wealth, evidenced by my bicycle, sewing machine, and ability to produce over 1,000 yuan, Sui felt his request was negligible. From a typical father's perspective, he felt entitled to control a small fraction of his son's resources, even if he couldn't touch the larger sums. This mindset was common. Many parents in the 21st century squandered children's money on scams, and children often paid up to avoid conflict. If a son earns enough, he might tolerate his parents' foolish spending as a minor expense. While some children fight back, many prefer to let parents be swindled rather than cause a rift, often seeking legal recourse later instead of arguing. However, Sui was wrong to prioritize the eldest uncle's family, who had actively harmed me. While I accepted my duty to support my grandparents, I refused to be manipulated by the rest of the clan. I felt only moderate resentment toward my grandmother, but absolute hatred for my aunt. I would endure supporting my grandparents, but I would never allow the aunt's family to benefit. Supporting the elderly was a social necessity in the village, but I drew the line at being a doormat for my extended family. Su Sheng told his father, "We won't stop you from being filial, but don't drag us into it. We'll cover your share of the support if you're unemployed, but nothing more." Lao Si felt aggrieved, noting that he was always included in the burdens, but never in the benefits. Su He, feeling his authority challenged by his sons and seeing his wife side with them, grew furious. "Have you all turned against me? Do you think I can't handle you?" he roared. Lu Yuji stood up immediately. "Handle who? You want to use your son's hard-earned food to feed the people who tried to ruin him? Do you have a conscience?" Sui knew she was right, but he hoped that by sending food, his parents would at least get a decent meal. Sui pointed at her, speechless. Su Xing stepped in front of his mother, fearing his father might strike her. Lu Yuji pushed him aside, standing her ground. "Go ahead, try hitting me. My family is still here. You can wrong me, but you will not wrong my son." I marveled at how a mother's protective instinct could make the weak appear so strong. Realizing the family was on the verge of collapse, I intervened to prevent the aunt's family from benefiting from their discord. I walked over and firmly pressed my father back into his seat. "Stop it. This only makes us a laughingstock. Father, you're willing to fight us for them, but would they do the same for you?" My calm tone de-escalated the tension. "They will never reconcile with us. You're just letting them continue to bleed us dry. That's not harmony. That's exploitation." I framed my argument carefully to avoid insulting my father's intelligence directly. Su He, naturally submissive, calmed down once given a face-saving exit. Realizing his plan was dead, Su He asked, "Then what should I do? I can't just tell them I have no say in my own house." I knew my father had folded. "I'll support you, as is my duty. You can support your parents, but don't involve us. We only support them because society demands it, not out of affection. You know they have no love for us." I knew that while they were legally and socially obligated to provide basic support, they were not required to be exploited. "Fine," Sui conceded. "I'll take 10 pounds of my own ration. I'll just eat less for half a month." I realized my father was determined to sacrifice his own health to appease his parents. Since Sui insisted on using his own share, I felt I had no choice but to relent. "Fine, do as you wish. But don't expect me to provide extra if we run out." I chose not to be harsh, knowing my father was too conditioned by his own parents to change. I decided to stop arguing. If my father wanted to starve himself to maintain his pride, that was his choice. Su Sheng wanted to protest, but I stopped him, knowing most of their food came from me anyway. I finished my meal and left with my wife. Lu Yuji slammed the table, scolding her husband for ruining the reunion. She felt helpless. As a daughter-in-law, she had to maintain appearances for the sake of her other children's future marriages. The family dinner ended in bitterness as I and Huang Sui walked home. Stop being angry. You startled me by confronting father-in-law today. We just moved out. Causing a scene makes us look bad. Huang Sui spoke from the heart. I nodded, whistled for Heizi, and we headed home together. I wanted to settle scores with the eldest aunt, grandmother, the female educated youth, and Boss Yang's driver. Revenge required the right moment, which I would have to create. The eldest aunt's behavior was becoming intolerable. I decided to prioritize dealing with her after my trip to sell game in the city tomorrow. Don't be sullen. I've prepared foot-washing water. Clean up and relax. Huang Sui knew hunting was dangerous and exhausting. She understood that their improved life was bought with her husband's life. Coming from a family of hunters, she knew the hardship. Just as her mother served her father, she now served me. It wasn't about status, but love. A man's efforts shouldn't be taken for granted. I was deeply touched by my wife's thoughtfulness. Once settled, it was time for their tutoring session. I loved Huang Sui's scent and made tutoring a nightly ritual since our marriage. Over the past half-month, she had blossomed, her skin glowing with newfound vitality. The next morning, after a long session, Huang Sui hurried to cook on their outdoor stove. How are you and Huzi getting to the city? You have a lot of game, and Huzi has been hoarding his catches too. I hadn't hunted for days, but Huzi had been working the outskirts, accumulating a significant haul. I'll ask Uncle Dihai to borrow the donkey cart. Huzi arrived with the cart, having already handled the arrangements with his father. Huzi helped load the cart. I have about 400 gene, but you've got 600. Huzi's haul was the result of 4 days of work, mostly wild boar and wolves. My 400 gene consisted of wild boar and sika deer, the latter of which I had caught alone. I kept the largest sika deer in my space for personal consumption. By the way, when you go to Deng family village next, find out the name of that driver from their village. Huzi was puzzled but agreed without questioning my motives. At the steel mill, they sold their haul to Zheng Yuegua. I earned 400 yuan due to the deer meat, while Huzi earned 500 yuan. Hee, brother you, we're rich. Huzi was ecstatic. 500 yuan was a fortune in this era. Zheng Yuegua escorted them out of the steel mill. Brother Zheng, it's noon. Let me treat you to a meal. They were always paid immediately, a rarity that spoke to Zheng Yuegua and Wei Huaida's influence in the finance department. It was clear Zheng and Wei were the ones smoothing the way for them. I knew I had to show my appreciation to avoid offending them. Brother, you're running a small business. I can't take your money. Despite the polite refusal, I insisted and dragged him to a small eatery. Brother Zheng, why are you always here? No trips to the countryside for dry goods. Dry goods like mushrooms, peppers, and dried game were staples for procurement officers. But the factory is opening a branch. We're currently selecting staff to handle procurement there. I've done well with the meat supply, but it's a double-edged sword. Zheng Yuegua's ability to source meat, even via the black market, was his ticket to advancement, provided he didn't get caught. In this era, results mattered more than methods. If you solved a case or secured supplies, the factory turned a blind eye to the risks you took. Procurement was the same. As long as you delivered off-plant supplies, your source remained your professional secret. I realized Zheng Yuegua was being pressured to move to the branch factory, which he clearly didn't want. Why the hesitation? Wouldn't a promotion be worth it? Zheng Yuegua explained that while he wanted a promotion, the branch factory was a dead end compared to the main factory. The deputy factory chief wants me to go, but he won't offer a real raise or promotion. I'd be a fool to leave the main factory for that backwater. Surely he'd offer a deputy section chief position? You don't understand. He's trading positions for support. He's already promised the procurement roles to others to secure his own power. I was stunned by the office politics. So he wants you to work for nothing? Won't he worry you'll just slack off? In this era, procurement agents are assigned tasks based on set quotas. You can't get larger orders just by being capable. That would invite scrutiny. Since everyone is equal, workers are protected by the iron rice bowl. and even factory directors can't easily pressure or fire them without cause. If an agent completes their basic duties, there's no leverage to pressure them. Dismissal requires strict justification or proof of disciplinary violation, which is notoriously difficult to obtain. Zheng Yuegwa simply meets his monthly quotas without standing out. He refuses to be an overachiever, and since he fulfills his basic requirements, no one can force him to do more. I can't just give nothing. That would be exploitative, not a negotiation. Emboldened by alcohol, I asked about the situation, despite knowing such private matters are usually kept off the table. It's just 3 job quotas. He wants me to follow him to the branch factory, but he's offering no promotion and only 3 spots. It's insulting. A permanent job quota is an open secret worth 500 yuan. These spots are rarely advertised. They are usually sold or used as favors. If Zheng sold these 3 spots, he could pocket 1,500 yuan through quiet, back-channel agreements. While 1,500 yuan is significant for most, a procurement agent, one of the 8 major positions, has many ways to earn extra income if they know the ropes. I realized that if Zheng used these spots for family, it would be a favor. If sold, it would be pure profit. Zheng, are you still negotiating for more? Are you planning to use these for favors, or? Zheng understood the implication immediately, his head clearing slightly from the alcohol. Why? Are you interested in getting someone into the factory? Not for me, but for my family. If it's convenient, I'd like to buy them at market price. Zheng is effectively forced to the branch factory. His superior, the vice factory director in charge of logistics, holds all the cards. Refusing could lead to retaliatory, impossible assignments. The vice director can't fire him, but he can make life miserable with difficult tasks, like winter procurement in the south. Zheng isn't looking for a fight. He's trying to maximize his value before moving, as he lacks the backing to openly defy the vice director. The vice director knows he needs to offer incentives to get a key player like Zheng to move, as forced transfers are politically sensitive and require ideological work. Furthermore, Zheng is essential for the factory's food supply. If Zheng voluntarily applies for the transfer to challenge himself, it becomes a matter of spirit, making it impossible for anyone to block him without facing the party committee. Haha, all right. I'll save the spots for you. How many do you need? I pondered. A job at the steel mill means a permanent urban household registration and grain rations, a massive advantage for marriage prospects. My younger brother, Lao Si, is still in school. My eldest brother, Su Sheng, is the best candidate, as the mill is physically demanding and positions like finance or kitchen staff are already spoken for. Getting even a few permanent spots from Zheng is a rare opportunity. I want to secure a job for Su Sheng, as farming has no future until the household responsibility system arrives in 8 years. I also want to relieve my brother's burden of supporting the family. With training, Su Sheng could eventually earn more than our father. I also consider my sister, whose status in the Wu family is precarious due to her husband's lack of influence. Getting my brother-in-law a job and moving my sister to the city would allow them to break free from their current household and provide a better future for Yaya. A city job could eventually lead to housing and higher pay through technical grading, far more valuable than the initial 500 yuan investment. Just as I helped Huzi, I am willing to front the 500 yuan for my sister, trusting they will repay me. I am providing the primitive accumulation of capital to shorten their path to stability, confident they will pay me back. I'll take 2 spots, Zheng. Is that okay? Zheng was surprised. Spending 1,000 yuan for family members' jobs was rare. No problem. I have 3 spots. I was going to give one to my brother-in-law, but he's unreliable. A job is a single, fragile slot. If you're fired for incompetence, the spot is lost forever. If his brother-in-law lost the job, it would be a wasted 500 yuan opportunity. If there are extras, I'll take all 3. I'll pay the 500 yuan per spot immediately. Being able to produce 2,000 yuan in cash is extremely rare in the countryside. I plan to use the extra spots for my brothers-in-law, trusting the Huang family's reputation to repay me. With 3 people working, they will easily repay the debt within a few years. I must be fair to avoid internal family friction, as my wife, Huang Sui, would surely notice any perceived favoritism. I exclude my cousin De because I know De will eventually pass university exams. A factory job is inferior to a degree. University graduates are highly sought after and earn more, making the factory job unnecessary for him. Some might call this reckless, but I view it as an investment in human capital. Money in the bank is just a number, but money invested in people builds lasting influence. With my own life on track and 1,000 yuan in savings, I have no immediate need for more cash. Helping my family builds gratitude and long-term returns that far exceed the initial 500 yuan investment. It is a sound, strategic move. I had nearly 4,000 yuan, including today's 400. Even if I spent 2,000, I would still have plenty left. Haha, brother, if you take them all, you're doing me a huge favor. These job slots were highly coveted. It was best to sell them in bulk to a trusted person with an introduction letter, saving the trouble of finding individual buyers. Zheng Yuegua trusted me, as I had made a great impression with my professional conduct. Zheng decided to secure 4 slots, knowing each one was worth 500 yuan, a fortune compared to his usual salary. After a pleasant meal, I and Huzi left, while Zheng returned to the factory alone. Huzi, I'm taking all the slots. Any objections? I can give you one if you want. If you're not joining the factory, neither am I. Hunting with you is way better than being a wage slave, and I just bought my rifle. I was surprised. In this era, the iron rice bowl was prized, and most people viewed self-employment as shameful speculation. This deep-seated mindset would take time to shift. The first wave of people to jump into the sea would strike it rich due to massive market demand and low competition. By the time the masses realized the potential, the market would be saturated and profits would dwindle. Huzi's disregard for the factory job showed his foresight. Hunting was lucrative, though Huzi's recent 500 yuan haul was largely due to my guidance and luck with wild boars and sika deer. Most hunters couldn't dream of earning 500 yuan in 4 days. My success gave Huzi the confidence to prioritize cash over the status of a permanent employee. You kid. All right, let's go. As we drove the donkey cart back toward town, our path was blocked. A dozen men armed with steel pipes stood in our way. Trouble, I muttered. These aren't ordinary thugs. Stay back and stay safe. We were quickly surrounded. I couldn't abandon the collective's donkey cart, or I'd never be allowed to borrow it again. No way. I'm not letting you face them alone. Huzi insisted. Huzi grabbed a wooden stick he'd stashed for protection. He regretted not bringing his rifle, though he hadn't expected a daylight ambush. Stay with the cart and listen to me, I commanded, stepping forward. Which path do you boys walk? Why block us? I wasn't afraid, but I worried about Huzi's safety. Which one of you is Suyu? Step out. They were prepared. I wondered if this was Boss Yang's doing, or perhaps the driver, Lan Zai-Kuei. I'm Suyu. What do you want? No point in hiding. I stood my ground. I'm Li Yong. Call me Brother Yong or Brother Tiger. I didn't mind the title if it kept things civil. All right, Brother Tiger. What's the play? Our boss wants to see you. I didn't recognize the name. Who is your boss? Don't ask questions. Ever heard of Lord Kuei? Lord Kuei? Lan Zai-Kuei, the petty thug who framed my uncle's son? So it's him. Why does he want me? Li Yong grew impatient. Either come quietly, or we'll beat you until you do. Choose. Screw that Lan Zai-Kuei trash. We aren't going anywhere. Huzi shouted, brandishing his stick. Huzi stepped up, looking ready to fight. I was amused by Huzi's sudden, dramatic, Hong Kong-style bravado. Who are you calling trash? The thugs, insulted, closed in. Huzi felt he had no choice. Losing the cart meant disaster, so he might as well fight. If he lost, he'd be beaten. If he won, he'd keep his money and the cart. Wait, let's not be hasty. There's clearly a misunderstanding. I'll go with you, I intervened. With 15 men, I couldn't guarantee a quick, non-lethal victory without Huzi getting caught in the crossfire. I decided to go along to see what Lord Kuei was actually planning. This place isn't lawless, but even for thugs, there's a limit. If they went to such lengths to invite me, it clearly wasn't to kill me. Brother, are you crazy? You can't go with them. Huzi was loyal, but he didn't know my true strength, or that I had a rifle. If he did, he wouldn't be so panicked. Kid, don't be ungrateful. No one refuses an invitation from Lord Kuei. Several men closed in, standing within 3 meters, pointing clubs at Huzi with arrogant glares. They would have attacked already if I hadn't agreed to go. I wasn't sure I could take them all in a minute, but it was a toss-up. Huzi, it's fine. It's broad daylight. If they wanted to harm me, they wouldn't announce themselves. Wait here. I'll be back shortly. With you here, they won't dare touch me. I knew that if they intended to kill me, they'd have to kill Huzi too. By leaving Huzi behind, I ensured my own safety. No one publicly invites a victim just to commit a crime. It was broad daylight on a busy street. If anything happened, the public security would investigate, and the thugs couldn't hide it. Besides, Hong Dakue was just a petty thug who bullied widows. He wouldn't dare commit murder. At most, he'd break a leg. I patted Huzi's shoulder and told the thugs, lead the way. Seeing me yield, the thugs' expressions softened. They hated stubborn fools like Huzi. They prided themselves on being ruthless men who broke limbs for a living. Li Yukai was still recovering from having his tendons cut and tongue removed, and since he couldn't speak or write, I remained uninvolved. These men had no idea who they were dealing with. Lord Kue is in the courtyard. Go in yourself. They opened the gate, 15 men surrounding it to prevent escape. I found the display of prestige ridiculous. I entered the standard farmhouse courtyard, which featured a north, east, and west room. Under a pomegranate tree sat a stone table. Hong Dakue, a man in his 30s, sat there surrounded by over 20 subordinates. I realized this was likely the entirety of his available gang. It was quite the spectacle, though the motive remained unclear. As I entered, dozens of eyes and blades fixed on me. I remained calm, walking forward without a hint of fear. I stopped 3 meters from Hong Dakue. They stared at each other in silence. The atmosphere was absurd, a petty thug trying to project the aura of a crime lord. After 2 minutes, the subordinates grew restless, and Hong Dakue finally spoke. Kid, you've got guts. You don't seem afraid of me at all. I realized Hong Dakue was just a man who read too many pulp novels. Lord Kue, you didn't bring me here just to chat, did you? A thug shouted. How dare you speak to Lord Kue like that? I ignored the outburst, finding the performative aggression tiresome. Hong Dakue waved his hand, signaling his magnanimity by silencing his man. I felt the entire scene was a choreographed performance of playing the boss. You know Li Yukai? I hear you have a grudge. I played along. Not a grudge, just conflicts. He harassed a female educated youth, and I intervened. Later, I beat them up at the black market. I kept it brief. These thugs weren't exactly in a position to report me to the public security. I've investigated. You're right. Li Yukai and his men lost their fingers seeking revenge. That's private business. But that bastard used my men to target you, leading to 15 of them being arrested. You can't deny that. I realized the motive. Hong Dakue's men had been hired by Li Yukai to kidnap Huang Sui. They had run into a hard target, resulting in 10 being shot and 5 beaten, all now facing jail time. Hong Dakue had lost his best men and was nearly implicated himself. So what? If someone targets my wife, am I supposed to just take it? Or is Lord Kue so arrogant that he forbids self-defense? Having figured out the motive, I relaxed, sat down, and poured myself a cup of tea. Hong Dakue was intrigued. He hated Li Yukai for the trouble, but he needed to save face and support his men's families. As a gang leader, he couldn't ignore his men being sidelined. It would ruin his reputation. He needed to provide for their families to keep his gang loyal. If he didn't, no one would follow him in the future. In short, he was looking for a donation for me to cover his losses. He wouldn't call it extortion. That was beneath him. But he needed the money to maintain his status as a benevolent boss. He had investigated me, the brick house, the bicycle, the sewing machine, and the watches. He knew I was wealthy. He figured he could turn a profit while covering the men's family's expenses. The cost of supporting them was far less than the value of a rifle. Besides, they were only accomplices, not the main culprits. They wouldn't be in jail forever. Kid, you're brave. Not many in this county talk to me like that. Do you think I won't touch you because of your brother? Hong Dakue knew about my brother, Shungur. He acknowledged Shungur was tough, but he wasn't a god. Could he fight 20 men? Times had changed. Brute force wasn't enough anymore. He had built his gang to handle anyone. Everyone around him was ready to kill. Shungur was just physically stronger. My brother is my brother. I am me. Are you looking down on me, Lord Kue? Or do you think you can bully me with just these few men? My arrogance shocked Hong Dakaway. No one had ever dared to act this way in front of him. Tired of living, kid? Want us to loosen your bones for you? Hong Dakaway's thugs, armed with machetes and steel pipes, were furious. They had gathered to intimidate me, whom they viewed as a wealthy, fat sheep who needed a reality check. Loosen my bones? Sure. I haven't moved in a while. Lord Kaway, mind if I borrow your turf? I knew this wouldn't end peacefully. Since I couldn't just run, I decided to fight. Not at all. If you have the interest, I don't mind. Hong Dakaway gritted his teeth. Aside from the public security, no one had ever dared to provoke him like this. Though he was a small-timer to the police and the black market, he was a lord to the local Hutong riffraff. He wasn't used to such disrespect. I stepped into the courtyard and beckoned. Come on then. Damn you, you're dead. 20 men charged. They were arrogant, used to backing a boss like Hong Dakaway, who operated independently but held status similar to the black market's fox. Lord Kaway, blades have no eyes. If I hurt your men, you're paying their medical bills. The thugs attacked harder, and Hong Dakaway, now truly enraged, remained silent. I smiled coldly and dove into the fray. I fought with ruthless efficiency, far more aggressive than I had been with the villagers. I didn't hold back. These men were street thugs, not honest villagers. Sounds of impact, screams, and bones snapping filled the air. I delivered a 360-degree kick, using my momentum to send a man flying into his comrades, knocking them all down. Within minutes, they were all defeated. I had to be cautious to avoid blades and avoid killing, which forced me to restrain my full lethality. Your men aren't much, Lord Kaway. Looks like you're paying those medical bills yourself. It was a double entendre. He understood the threat, but refused to pay or show respect. Hong Dakaway realized he lacked the strength to back up his own arrogance. Good kid, I underestimated you. But do you think you're walking out of here? Hong Dakaway had considered fighting himself, but realized after seeing my skill that he was outclassed. He reached into his jacket, intending to pull a pistol. I was faster, closing the distance and kicking out. Hong Dakaway tried to block, failing to draw his weapon. They traded blows. Hong Dakaway's style was a messy mix of military boxing and Hung Jie, unrefined but functional. It was like a bicycle built from mismatched parts, functional but chaotic. I could have crippled him in one move, but chose not to. Humiliating a boss would lead to a blood feud. I just needed to prove I wasn't a soft target. I didn't want a deep entanglement with someone like Hong Dakaway. After a few probing exchanges, I kicked Hong Dakaway's arm, and we separated. Both men now held pistols. Hong Dakaway was stunned. He hadn't expected me to be armed with a restricted weapon. These weren't standard-issue rifles. They were rare, high-end pistols only found in the black market or among high-ranking military. Ha ha ha, impressive skills, brother. Hong Dakaway offered a face-saving exit, realizing he couldn't win. We smiled at each other and holstered our weapons. The kidnapping of Huang Sui had been Li Yotsai's rogue decision, not Hong Dakaway's order. That was why I hadn't crippled him. I was showing restraint. Lord Kaway, your technique is excellent. I'm impressed, I said with a mocking bow. Hong Dakaway blushed, knowing full well I had been holding back to avoid a feud. He realized I was giving him a way out. In the underworld, you accept your losses. My restraint wasn't fear, but a calculated choice. You're too kind. You're the talented one. I'm just an old man getting winded. I rolled my eyes. Hong Dakaway was barely 37. Since the misunderstanding is cleared, I'll be off. Let's meet again sometime. Please, go ahead, Hong Dakaway replied. He knew he couldn't stop me, and it wasn't worth dying over a few thugs. I bowed and turned to leave. Outside, I found Huzi, who was being blocked by two men and was ready to fight with a stick. Huzi, don't. How are you here? What about the donkey cart? I was worried about the collective property. It's safe at a villager's place. Are you okay, brother? You? I'm fine. Let's go. The men didn't stop us this time. I and Huzi retrieved the donkey cart and left. The local villagers were simple and kind, happy to help watch the cart. The spirit of mutual aid was still very much alive. Brother, you, what did they want? Huzi asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Li Yukai used Hong Dakaway's men to kidnap my wife. They wanted compensation for their losses. I refused. We fought, and that's that. That easily. Hong Dakaway isn't known for being reasonable. Hong Dakuei's reputation in the county was notorious. He had to save face in front of his men. He couldn't afford to keep pushing. I brushed off the topic, and Huzi, sensing my reluctance, stopped prying. Once I left, Lan Zikuei's subordinates finally dared to approach. Lan Zikuei scowled at his incompetent men and sat down, looking visibly displeased. "Boss, some of the boys are badly hurt. Should we take them to the hospital?" "Useless trash, just go." Lan Zikuei waved them off. I had intentionally avoided causing internal injuries to keep medical costs low and prevent further conflict. Huzi and I arrived at Sanchuan. Huzi returned the donkey cart while I headed home. "You're back? My brother is here looking for your help." I followed Huang Sui inside to find Huang Shan waiting. "Brother-in-law, you're here. Let me explain." Huang Shan's attitude was much improved compared to our last encounter. Huang Shan explained that the village party secretary's son and his visiting comrades, a group of 7 or 8 young people from the city, had gone hunting in the mountains and gone missing. Why were women allowed to hunt? Don't they know the taboos? It was a local superstition that women brought bad luck or sense that interfered with hunting. They were just looking for thrills. The locals are fine, but the city kids are in trouble. We haven't heard from them. Their families have arrived and are organizing a search party. There's a generous reward. Are you in? The group were second-generation military kids who had tagged along with the secretary's son for sport. In this era, using rifles to hunt birds and rabbits was a common pastime for the elite. Though they were inexperienced, they had adults with them. The secretary's son, confident in his hunting skills and weaponry, had agreed, but 2 days had passed with no word. "Fine, I'll pack my gear and go with you." I felt moved by Huang Shan's trust. Since this was a search mission, I wouldn't have to separate from the group, making it safer to camp in the mountains. "Don't look so reluctant. A high-ranking military officer, a lieutenant colonel, is here. He's the older brother of one of the missing. The military isn't allowed to intervene directly, so they need our help. If we find them, think of the favor we'll be owed." Huang Shan didn't mention the specific reward, knowing that the connection to a military family was far more valuable. I was exhausted, but I couldn't refuse my brother-in-law. "Sui, go stay with little sister at the old courtyard tonight. I'll be back when I'm done." I didn't want to leave my wife alone, so I insisted she stay with my sister for safety. "I understand. Don't take unnecessary risks in the mountains. Stay safe." They exchanged concerns, much to Huang Shan's amusement. "Let's go. I need to grab my rifle and ammo." I packed my seasonings, water canteen, smoked meat, and ammunition before heading out. "Brother-in-law, the mountains are vast. If we don't find them, it's a waste of time. How about I bring Huzi? We can hunt while we search." For a normal hunter, a 10 yuan compensation would suffice, but my time was worth much more. I didn't want to risk a day's labor for nothing. If I could hunt simultaneously, it would be worth the effort. "Fine, but don't say that in front of the families. We don't want to offend them." I agreed, and they went to fetch Huzi. I explained the situation to Huzi. "It's almost evening. We'll be entering the mountains in the dark. Does your family know?" I nodded. Huzi went to ask his mother for permission. "Suyu wouldn't lead you astray. If he's going, you can go too," Huzi's mother said, trusting my judgment. She knew that if I was involved, the risk was likely calculated and the reward worth it. She trusted my intelligence over her own. "I'll get my rifle. And bring extra rope. It might come in handy." Huzi grabbed his gear, and we set off for Huangjia village. "I heard about Li Yukai. You're a ruthless one," Huang Shan remarked on the road. I just smiled, and we continued walking. We reached Huangjia village, where a crowd was gathered with torches and flashlights. A group went in during the day. "I waited for you," Huang Shan explained. I nodded. "Old party secretary, I'm here. When do we leave?" Huang Hai greeted them as they approached the group. I acknowledged Huang Hai. The village party secretary greeted me warmly, as we were well acquainted. "So that's why you waited. Good. We need all the help we can get. Don't let anything happen to those kids in our village." "I'll do my best, sir." I had a history with the village party secretary, who had acted as the mediator for my marriage to Sui. The secretary appreciated my respectful attitude. "Go see your father-in-law. We're leaving soon." I followed the others to Old Man Huang's house. "Father, mother." I greeted my in-laws formally, knowing the importance of showing respect in their home. "Suyu, come in. Your mother has food ready. Eat before you head into the mountains." The Huang family treated Huzi with extra warmth, acknowledging his role as my brother-in-law and as savior of their family. While the Huangs felt close enough to me to skip formalities, they remained polite toward Huzi, even serving him extra food to make him feel welcome. I'm going to collect a rifle after dinner. Wait for me, I said. Wait, a rifle? Huangshan explained. The mountains are dangerous at night. The missing group had rifles, yet they vanished. We need protection. The militia opened the armory for villagers to ensure safety. I invited you personally, so this is a private action, not an official village mission. Huangjia village isn't forcing anyone to search. If you choose to hunt instead of search, that's your business, and the village head won't interfere. The village isn't organizing outsiders, so if you happen to find the missing group, that's just your good luck. I see. That works. Huang Hai returned shortly with 2 rifles and 2 boxes of ammunition, distributing one set to his brother and keeping the other. The village was generous with ammo, fearing the disappearances might be the work of criminals or spies rather than wild beasts. With 30 rounds each, they were well prepared for both hunting and potential skirmishes, especially with hundreds of villagers currently in the mountains. Father-in-law, are you coming too? I asked. Old man Huang was still strong, but I wasn't sure if he'd join the night search. No, I'm too old for night climbs. I'd only slow you down. The young one's going is enough to satisfy the village head's call. Most villagers only participated due to the village secretary's call and the promise of rewards. They weren't eager to risk their lives for strangers. Without the incentive, few would have volunteered, highlighting the difference in perspective between the families and the authorities. We're heading to the square. Wait, let me get you coats, Old Man Huang said. His son, Huang Shan, brought out 2 military overcoats for me and Huzi. These were my father's treasures, bought from the black market. They'd still be gathering dust if not for you two. The long, warm military overcoats were highly valued in that era. The 2 thanked them. Huang Shan and Huang Hai wore sheepskin coats, which were equally warm despite being shorter. Brother-in-law, do we have rope? Bring plenty, I requested. Though puzzled, Huang Shan agreed, and the group set off. They arrived at the brightly lit square, each carrying a flashlight. Did you bring spare batteries? These flashlights used D-cell batteries, which were long-lasting. Don't worry, I have enough. They stood apart from the main crowd, preferring to move on their own. Remember, we're here to find people. Don't fire unless in danger to avoid friendly fire, the village head warned. The group entered the mountain. Here, were these hats to keep out the night chill, Huang Hai said. He handed them warm, fur-lined hats that covered the ears. I and Huzi accepted them. We bypassed the main force, choosing a narrow path. We knew the main group was unlikely to find the missing people, as the area had already been combed. We decided to hunt in less traveled areas. If we found the missing people, great. If not, we'd at least have game. I used a flashlight as a cover, though my own vision was perfect. Relying on my sense of smell, I began hunting. I fired frequently, ignoring the no-shooting rule because my night vision ensured I never missed or hit a person. I shot 24 times, stashing half the game in my space, while leaving the rest for the others to carry to maintain appearances. Bang! Another shot rang out. By now, Huang Shan, Huang Hai, and Huzi were already burdened with game. It was past 11 p.m., 4 hours into their trip, and their haul was massive. Let's rest. We can't carry any more. Even the sturdy Huang Shan was exhausted from lugging the heavy load over rough terrain. They collapsed on the ground, the weight of the game making the mountain path nearly impassable. Let's find a tall tree and stash the game, I suggested. So that's why you wanted the rope, Huang Shan realized. I climbed a tree, hoisting the game up in batches to secure it. Their catch included pheasants, rabbits, roe deer, and wild boars, about 300 to 400 pounds total. I jumped down, dusting off my hands. Done. I've camouflaged it with branches. We'll mark the spot and pick it up on the way back. In the April weather, the gutted game would stay fresh. Huang Shan knew the terrain well enough to find the spot again. They continued, checking their map, provided by the lieutenant, to mark off search sectors. Huang Shan crossed off their path with a pencil. If the missing group were nearby, they would have heard the gunfire and signaled back. We've covered a lot of ground, If they were here, they should have responded to our shots. We've likely wasted our time searching this area. They must be elsewhere, Huang Shan sighed. Huang Shan was disappointed. He valued the potential social capital of saving the missing people more than the game. I could track by scent, but I couldn't exactly ask the lieutenant for a personal item to track the missing people without raising suspicion. I couldn't ask the lieutenant about my missing family member. Doing so would likely get me beaten for being intrusive. Tracking hundreds of people in the mountains by scent alone was impossible, even for someone with my heightened senses. I could only get a lead if I revealed my secret abilities to the lieutenant to gain access to a personal item for tracking. That was out of the question. Exposing my supernatural powers would turn me into a lab specimen for government research. Given the history of secret paranormal research facilities, I knew better than to risk being dissected. Saving a life is a noble deed, but fate is unpredictable. I hope they're just trapped or held somewhere and not in immediate danger. As they walked, I continued shooting. I occasionally missed on purpose, secretly storing the prey in my space. I only kept high-quality game like sika deer or large roe deer in my space to avoid the burden of carrying heavy carcasses, sharing the rest. By midnight, everyone was carrying several pieces of game. Let's stop here. We'll clear a fire break, roast some meat, and rest. If they were nearby, they would have signaled by now. The others agreed. Huzi and Huang Hai went to gather firewood. Huang Shan cleared the leaves and dug a fire break to prevent a forest fire. I prepped wild rabbits and prepared mud for beggar's chicken. Huzi and Huang Hai returned with a massive haul of firewood. They had felled a dead tree, bringing back nearly 80 pounds of wood. Hurry up and feed the fire. The rabbits will take 2 hours to roast properly, I urged. Huzi tended the fire while I set up a makeshift rack to roast the meat slowly. Slow roasting was essential to prevent the meat from burning. I prepared 2 fat rabbits and 2 pheasants, enough for a feast. Drink some of this sorghum liquor to ward off the mountain chill, I offered. The men took a swig, coughing at the high proof. It's homemade village liquor, strong, but it keeps you warm, I explained. They pulled out steamed buns and toasted them over the fire. Huang Shan was surprised by the fine white flour buns. You guys are living well in Sanchuan. Huzi and I exchanged smiles. Our hunting success made such luxuries affordable. I kept a low profile at home, but since moving out, I let my wife, Huang Sui, eat white flour buns openly. These are from Brother Yu. My family usually eats mixed flour, Huzi added. Huzi's family could afford better, but they preferred to stay low-key. My home was secluded, allowing me more privacy. Because few people visited my home, I could eat well without drawing attention. Knowing the food came from me, the brothers didn't press further, respecting my hunting prowess. They realized that what took me half a day would have taken them days to hunt. As Huzi put it, I was simply blessed by the heavens. I checked my system, age 19, physique 25, strength 35, speed 25, stamina 30. Space, 3 cubic meters. Skills, fishing, LVL 3, archery limit break, LVL 1, tracking, LVL 7, dog training, LVL 5, Krav Maga, LVL 9, butchery, LVL 7, rock climbing, LVL 7, marksmanship, LVL 8, carpentry, LVL 5, parkour, LVL 7. Skill points, 63. With 63 points, I decided to upgrade my tracking skill. As a hunter, mastering tracking was my top priority. I invested the points. Tracking reached level 9. Skill points, 0. My mind felt clear and elevated as the knowledge integrated. My senses, sight, hearing, and smell, sharpened, and my mental simulations became incredibly vivid. I could now look at a trampled blade of grass and perfectly simulate what creature had stepped on it. It felt like high-level detective deduction. I realized this was a system-assisted version of a professional investigator's intuition. It was far more immersive than mere mental visualization. Huang Shan handed me a roasted rabbit. I snapped out of my thoughts and accepted the food. The ability had limits. It required focus and couldn't reconstruct events if the physical evidence was too old or disturbed. I decided not to overthink it. It was a niche tool for hunting. After eating, they set up a watch rotation. They woke before dawn, drawn by the scent of roasting meat. You roasted a whole roe deer? Huang Shan asked, impressed. I was on watch anyway, and rabbits weren't enough for everyone, I replied. They sat together, toasting buns and eating. I turned the 60-pound roe deer over the fire. The four of them devoured the entire deer. Your seasoning is incredible, brother-in-law. You have to teach me, Huang Shan praised. I smiled. My unique spice blends were far ahead of the current era's culinary standards. Let's keep searching. We can't face the village chief empty-handed. They were assigned specific sectors to sweep, and they had to complete the task thoroughly to ensure no area was left unchecked. This systematic grid search was the only reason they hadn't encountered other groups in the forest. I and the others resumed our hunt, covering our designated, albeit large, area. Stop by. That's a cliff ahead. If you fall, we'll just be collecting a corpse, so don't bother. I paused. My eagle-eye tracking senses had picked up a faint, lingering scent of perfume, far more distinct than the nearly imperceptible trace of humans. I was certain someone had been there, though I couldn't fathom how they had passed through. We've come this far. Let's check. If we miss something, the village chief will say we weren't diligent. Huang Shan shrugged and agreed to my insistence. Fine, we have time. Let's take a look. They scoured the cliff edge, but found nothing. Even my sharp eyes saw nothing below. Strange. The scent trail didn't end. Should we go down? The cliff was 20 meters deep, a fatal drop. Even if the ground below wasn't solid rock, a fall from that height would be lethal. I stopped looking. There's no path, and we don't have ropes. No one could have gone down there. I doubted my own senses. The scent clearly indicated someone had lingered here. Yet, my vision, equivalent to an eagle eye, saw nothing in the brush below. Huang Shan urged me to move on. I sighed, frustrated, wondering if my nose had failed me. Women rarely entered the forest for hunting, as it was considered bad luck. Thinking I'd found a lead, I kicked a small mound of dirt in frustration. A bone emerged. Huang Shan picked it up to inspect it. Doesn't look like animal bone, but it can't be from the missing people. They've only been gone 2 days. Obviously, I retorted. It's weathered and old. You can't even tell if it's human. They decided to dig. Using their wood-chopping knives, they unearthed more bones. It's a burial. The whole skeleton is here, except for the skull. Huzi recoiled in fear. He was young and had never seen human remains before. Calm down, I said. It's clearly an old grave. It's nothing to panic about. I patted Huzi's shoulder. While Huzi was brave in a fight, finding a headless corpse was understandably unsettling. The bones are old, but the soil is damp. It was disturbed recently, within the last few days. But who buried it? And where is the head? Why no marker? The lack of a rotting stench confirmed the bones were ancient. The forest floor had far stronger odors from dead animals. Could the missing people have found this and left to investigate? Huang Shan shook his head. The bones are too old to be a new discovery. They probably just stumbled upon it, got curious, and buried it before moving on. If they buried it, where did they go? They realized the missing group might have descended the cliff, perhaps having brought the bones up from below. What now? Report to the village head or search the bottom. They surmised the missing group had likely gone down to investigate, met with an accident, and were now trapped. Let's report it, I suggested. If they're trapped, we need backup. 7 or 8 people, including soldiers, couldn't get out. We can't handle this alone. They agreed. Requesting reinforcements was the safest course of action. Huzi, Huang Hai, go back and get help. I and Huang Shan will wait here. The 2 men grabbed their rifles and hurried back. I and Huang Shan waited for an hour until reinforcements arrived around 10 a.m. A lieutenant in uniform approached them briskly. Where are the remains? He had clearly been briefed by Huzi and Huang Hai. I pointed to the bones they had laid out. Old bones, but buried recently? Where? Huang Shan pointed to the shallow pit near the cliff edge. The officer, Chun Sheng, inspected the soil and nodded. He shook their hands. I'm Chun Sheng. Thank you for the lead. I'll get you my contact info later. Call me if you ever need help. He had already confirmed with the village chief that no one in Huangjia village knew of these remains, making this a legitimate clue. It gave them a direction for their search. I and Huang Shan were stunned by the sudden offer of friendship. Chun Sheng's transition from crime scene to networking was jarring. More villagers arrived, bringing the group to nearly 50 people. Pengzi, get the ropes. We'll search the cliff base. Others, sweep the surrounding areas for more clues. Chun Sheng remained focused. They had to act quickly as it was already the 3rd day. And what about the remains, sir? Since the remains were no longer a primary clue, they needed instructions on how to handle the burial site. Ask me. Hand it to the local public security. It's just old bones. They'll likely just bury them somewhere. Sheng was right. Such remains are common, often unearthed during irrigation. Without knowing the identity, reburial is the standard procedure. Understood. Sheng's assistant bagged the remains and headed toward the police station. Sheng organized a search of the cliff base. Even with a 1% chance of finding clues related to the missing person, he had to investigate. Let's go. Nothing left for us here. Huangshan signaled me, Huang Hai, and Huzi. We retrieved our game from the trees, divided the load, and began the trek back. They reached Huangjia village by noon and ate at Huangshan's house. We should sell the game in town this afternoon before it spoils. April weather is mild, but meat spoils quickly. Factories won't risk buying stale goods, as it could lead to accusations of bribery or negligence. Management prefers inaction over error. If the meat is bad, they simply reject it. If a scandal occurs, someone must take the fall for potential kickbacks. I'll borrow an ox cart and go with you. Huang Shan went to secure the cart. A young man like Huang Hai wouldn't have the same influence with the village head. Experience and status mattered. With the ox cart secured, they prepared to depart. I, Huzi, and Huang Hai loaded the game, bid farewell to old man Huang, and headed for the county town. The ox cart was slower than a donkey cart, but sturdier, allowing all three to ride comfortably. Xiaoyu, will they mind me tagging along? Should I wait outside? Huangshan worried that his presence might jeopardize my connection at the steel mill. I understood the concern. Factories were cautious. They didn't want random hunters bringing in questionable goods or risking sabotage. The security department existed specifically to prevent enemy agents from infiltrating or poisoning supplies. Procurement officers either sourced directly from villages with official certificates or relied on trusted intermediaries like me, who took responsibility for the quality. Huangshan's presence was an unknown variable. Brother-in-law, you're just accompanying me, not selling the goods. It's fine. Huangshan agreed. He was just there to help. They arrived at the steel mill. I contacted the procurement officer, Zheng Yuegua, who came out to meet them. Brother Zheng, have a smoke. Sorry for the trouble. Zheng Yuegua, seeing his money tree, welcomed them inside. The standard procedure followed: greetings, quality inspection, weighing, and payment at the finance department. After an hour, Zheng pulled me aside. They received 270 yuan for over 300 jin of meat, including a small bonus for the hides. Brother Yu, we'll wait outside, Huzi said, taking Huangshan away. I and Zheng moved to a quiet spot to smoke. Why the secrecy, Brother Zheng? I had to be careful with that stranger around. The 4 job slots are confirmed. You can start the onboarding process next month. Do you want all 4? I couldn't discuss this in front of outsiders. These slots were technically transfers to relatives. Selling them openly was out of the question. Some things are done, but never spoken of. That big guy is my brother-in-law, not an outsider. He's one of the 4. I wouldn't bring a stranger to you. I clarified the situation to ease Zheng's suspicion, proving I was discreet and reliable. Haha, I trust you, brother. I smiled, knowing Zheng had been worried. Do you have the introduction letters, or should I bring the payment next time? Zheng preferred a cash-on-delivery approach to ensure security. Next time, bring the money, and I'll have the letters ready. Understood, thank you. I provided the names: my brother-in-law, Huangshan, Huang Hai, and my older brother, Shenggur. On the way back, I discussed the cost with Huangshan. It was a massive sum, but I insisted I would cover it for now. An iron rice bowl was a life-changing opportunity, far superior to farming and worth every penny. Suyu, you gave the factory spot to us? What about you? Didn't you want to work there? I shook my head, feigning a reason. I urged my brother-in-law to accept, explaining that farming offered no future without large-scale land ownership. Dreaming of wealth while tilling soil was futile. Fine. I'll discuss it with second brother and get back to you. Regardless of my decision, I appreciate the gesture. I smiled. This was a strategic investment in relationships, ensuring that if I became wealthy later, my close kin wouldn't grow resentful. If a childhood friend returns home driving a car while you remain a manual laborer, the dynamic inevitably shifts. Even if the wealthy party remains humble, the other will feel uncomfortable. It is an unavoidable reality. By helping them prosper first, I ensure their future gratitude, preventing myself from becoming isolated without anyone to confide in. Go on, I'll take the ox cart back. Here is your 54 yuan. I split the hunting proceeds, 60% for myself, 40% shared between Huangshan and Huzi. I handed the money directly to Huzi to ensure Huangshan accepted his share. Don't be modest, brother-in-law. It's the mountain rule. If you don't take it, Huzi won't feel comfortable taking his. You can't work for nothing. Huangshan finally accepted the money, pocketed it, and drove the ox cart away after bidding them farewell. I and Huzi walked toward the crossroads where the paths diverged to Sanchuan and Huangjia village. They parted ways, chatting and joking as they headed home, arriving before dark. I immediately biked to my brother-in-law's house, arriving around 3 p.m. Oh, third brother? Why are you here? Seeing my sister, Su Li, washing clothes in the yard, I frowned. She quickly explained, "Don't worry, these are just our clothes. Don't cause trouble." Su Li was touched by my protectiveness but feared the consequences. Fortunately, the intimidation from her brothers and the village chief had curbed her in-laws' abuse. The village chief had reprimanded the family, fearing that my previous public outburst would reflect poorly on his own leadership during the collective era. The chief acted not out of concern for Su Li, but to avoid scrutiny from commune leaders regarding his village's reputation. Don't worry, sister. I'm reasonable. As long as they aren't dumping all the work on you, I won't interfere. Hearing the commotion, the second sister-in-law peeked out, but retreated instantly upon seeing me, still terrified from our last encounter. Su Li shrugged. See? You scared her. Is this your version of being reasonable? Come inside. I'll get you water. Where is my brother-in-law? Is he in the fields? Please call him. I have something to discuss. I didn't plan to stay. I needed to report back to Shengur and had no time to linger. You came for him? I thought you were here to see me. I rolled my eyes. I had seen her just a month ago. There was nothing to miss. Wait here, I'll go get him. She left. The rest of the family stayed hidden, avoiding the menace that was me. Wu Jinxing soon hurried back with Su Li. Third brother, what brings you here? My brother-in-law was simple and honest. I didn't expect perfection, only that he treated my sister and Yaya well. I explained the plan. The steel mill is hard work, but I'll use my connections to get the sub-district office to arrange housing so you can bring my sister. Once your residency is transferred, you'll have a grain ration. I'll find my sister a job at the sub-district office too. You'll start as an apprentice at 15 yuan, and after 6 months, you can test for level 1, earning over 20. I'll find you a good mentor. I knew exactly which masters were willing to train apprentices. Whether it was Zhengyu Kingdom or Wei Huaid, they held influence. Even as a purchasing agent, Zhengyu Kingdom could trade favors for help. I planned to donate 200 jin of meat to the sub-district office to secure my sister a job. To the director, this was a political achievement. Whether it was cleaning streets or making matchboxes, it was a small favor for the office to grant. These temporary roles were stepping stones toward a permanent position. I knew that if only the husband had a ration, the wife would become a burden. This was why many city dwellers avoided marrying rural women. They couldn't afford the extra mouth. 2 working adults could manage, but 1 was a struggle. With no family planning, households were large, making the financial burden even heavier. I refused to let my sister become a burden or lose status in her marriage. I had to solve both their livelihoods. Otherwise, the resentment of poverty would eventually destroy the couple's bond. If the husband worked himself to death only to go hungry, he might eventually look elsewhere, harming my sister. By ensuring my sister also had a job, the family would be stable, happy, and secure. Think it over. But understand, this spot is for you, not the Wu family. Don't give it to anyone else. I feared the grandfather might try to give the spot to the second brother. Su Yu, don't be rude to your brother-in-law, my sister scolded. I just smiled. I understand what he means, Su Li. Even if I don't go, I won't let anyone pull a switcheroo. Wu Jinxing wasn't stupid. He understood my warning about his father's favoritism. Haha, don't mind me, brother-in-law. I'm doing this for my sister and Yaya, not to improve life for the rest of the Wu family. Since Wu Jinxing was open about it, I spoke plainly as well. I'm heading back. Discuss it with your wife and let me know. I suggest moving to the city. It's tough at first, but it's better for the future and Yaya's education. I left, with Su Li and Wu Jinxing seeing me to the street. Back home, I took my wife to the old courtyard and secretly retrieved a roe deer from my space. I claimed I caught it on the way back, noting that roe deer are foolish enough to be caught even without a gun. Huang Sui didn't ask questions. I quickly butchered and skinned the animal out of sight. I then carried the meat to the old courtyard. The meat was intended for my little sister, Yaya, Su Jin, and my mother, Lu Yuji, to improve their nutrition. I began chopping meat, while Huang Sui went inside to chat with Lu Yuji and her sister-in-law. Su Sheng approached to help, asking, "Did you hunt this at Huangjia village? Didn't you leave any for your father-in-law?" I thought to myself that my father-in-law was too stingy to even eat his own catch, let alone share. "No, I was mostly there to help look for someone," I replied, and the brothers finished preparing the meat together. I stewed over 10 pounds of meat for the family dinner. When Su's father returned, the family ate, and I brought up the job openings at the county steel mill. "You secured 4 spots? And gave one to your brother-in-law." Lu Yuji was stunned, thinking of the 2,000 yuan cost, but kept quiet about the Huang brothers in front of her daughter-in-law. She knew repayment was unlikely, especially with how difficult the future looked. Unable to criticize his generosity toward his siblings, she exchanged a silent look with Su He. Note: this paragraph was merged into the context of 7044. You're hunting in the mountains, but if your brother works, who will help your mother with the farm work? There's Su Jin. He'll be 15 next year. It's time he took on more responsibility. Su Jin, mid-bite, stared at his third brother in shock. He felt the label of pillar of the family was ridiculous given his status at home. "But I'm still in school. Why am I the main labor force?" he protested. He tried to argue for his rights, fearing he would be treated like a donkey. Note: this paragraph was merged into the context of 7051. His protest was ignored, and the family tacitly accepted my proposal. In the village, 15-year-olds often worked, and Su Jin was simply the youngest son who had been spared until now. A difficult year of farm work awaited him. Su Sheng said he would discuss it with his wife, Li Xiuqing. I respected their autonomy, offering opportunities without forcing them. I believed life shouldn't be judged solely by material gain. I wouldn't force my will on others, even if I believed I was right. I and Huang Sui left. While Lu Yuji grumbled about my wastefulness, Su Sheng began discussing the job with Li Xiuqing. I wasn't worried about Su Sheng, who could commute by bike, unlike Wu Jinxing, whose home was too far. Note: this paragraph was merged into the context of 7059. Did you really give my brother 2 spots? Couldn't you have given one to Brother Daong? Huang Sui asked. She worried about the labor shortage at her parents' home if both brothers left. She wouldn't have minded both brothers working, as factory jobs were superior to farming. Note: this paragraph was merged into the context of 7063. I pulled her close, whispering, "Call me husband again." Huang Sui blushed. Such terms were rare and considered improper at the time. Note: this paragraph was merged into the context of 7066. While husband was sometimes seen as a derogatory term from the Qing dynasty, I had redefined it for them. Note: this paragraph was merged into the context of 7068. I held her tightly, ignoring her playful struggles. "Stop it. We haven't even washed up," she protested. I, ignoring hygiene, carried her to the bed and locked the door. Outside, the dog Heisey whined at the door while the couple enjoyed their intimacy. The sounds of the night blended with the dog's whimpers. "Quiet, you stupid dog," I cursed. Lying in bed with Huang Sui, I lit a cigarette and scolded the dog. Without a proper kennel, the dog was anxious and wanted to sleep inside. The dog eventually quieted down. Huang Sui rolled her eyes at her husband's bravado and fell asleep. The next day, I resumed training the young eagle, determined to unlock new skills. I declined Huzi's invitation to hunt, determined to master a new skill before doing anything else. I spent the entire day training the young eagles. I focused on a single, achievable action to trigger the system's skill acquisition. After 10 hours, I succeeded. Status: I 19, Physique 25, Strength 35, Speed 25, Stamina 30. Inventory: Space, 3 cubic meters. Skills: Fishing LV3, Archery Limit Break LV1, Tracking LV9, Animal Taming LV3, Krav Maga LV9, Butchery LV7, Rock Climbing LV7, Marksmanship LV8, Carpentry LV5, Parkour LV7. Points: 0. My dog training skill merged into animal taming, dropping from LV5 to LV3. I considered this a net gain. Animal taming covers all species, but higher levels don't grant instant control. They provide deeper understanding and better training methodology. Expecting the young eagles to perform complex tasks immediately would be delusional. I gained extensive knowledge in training techniques, far surpassing the shallow information found in books. The system provided both knowledge and practical experience, allowing me to begin training immediately. The training became significantly smoother. The eagles finally understood my intentions. Soon, the 3 birds were independent enough to be released, as they would return upon hearing my whistle. Though raised on raw meat, they were affectionate toward me, though they feared my younger sister and Yaya. Fortunately, they learned to return home. My initial training was complete. While LV3 animal taming was sufficient, I lacked the points to upgrade it further. Unlike marksmanship or carpentry, upgrading this skill wouldn't yield immediate results. It only increased the potential for future complex tasks. It was a craft, not an instant outcome, so I was content. The eagles were currently useless for hunting, as they lacked specific training to signal prey or hunt independently. I settled the birds and returned inside, where an unexpected visitor awaited. Chun Sheng? Why are you here? Chun Sheng arrived with his subordinate, Pengzi, and my brother-in-law, Huang Shan. Chun Sheng gestured to the room, and I reluctantly let them in. Chun Sheng offered polite, empty pleasantries to my wife, Huang Sui, promising a gift later. I felt uneasy. Chun Sheng's high status and late-night visit suggested a hidden agenda rather than a simple social call. If they had found the missing people, they would be reporting to elders, not visiting me. Their urgency made me wary. Huang Sui greeted them politely before excusing herself to fetch water, sensing the tension. Let's skip the pleasantries, Comrade Chun. Why are you really here? I asked directly. I refused to be manipulated, despite the disparity in our social standing. Chun Sheng, a veteran of military politics, was adept at reading people. He realized I was not a simple villager like Huang Shan, who was easily swayed by the honor of helping the military. We searched the cliffs, but found only their guns, not the people, Chun Sheng admitted. He questioned me about my behavior at the cliff, noting that only I had lingered when others wanted to leave. I felt a flash of anger at the implication that I was hiding something. I knew Huang Shan had likely bragged about me, unaware of the subtext. I was annoyed by Chun Sheng's condescending attitude, treating us as if our help was a minor favor to be dismissed with empty promises. I realized Chun Sheng viewed us as expendable, intending to pay us off and forget us. I knew the reality. I had no leverage to demand more than what was offered. In this world, the rescuer rarely holds power over the rescued. I understood the social gap. If we were equals, my help would be significant, but here, it was just a transaction. Despite the rhetoric of equality, status dictated everything. Comrade Chun, are you questioning me? I stood up. I recognized Chun Sheng's verbal trap and refused to play along. If Chun Sheng wanted to act superior, I would rather burn the bridge than be manipulated. I wasn't a naive youth. I knew that favors without mutual respect were worthless. Calm down, Comrade Su. It's a misunderstanding, Chun Sheng said, backtracking. My sudden movement startled Huang Sui and confused Huang Shan, who finally realized the tension. What do you mean, Comrade Chen? We helped you, and now you suspect my brother-in-law. Huang Shan demanded. Huang Shan stood up to support me, creating an awkward standoff. Huang Sui returned to de-escalate the situation. Why are you all getting so heated? Let's talk like guests, she said. She sat her brother down, and I followed suit. Chun Sheng sighed in relief, realizing he had nearly ruined his chance to find the missing people. He was smart enough to know I had spotted something others missed, but his arrogance had nearly cost him. Chun Sheng's habit of manipulation had backfired against someone who refused to be controlled. Chun Sheng was capable, but his social conditioning had blinded him to the fact that I was not a man to be trifled with. I, with my superior experience and modern sensibilities, found the arrogant protagonist trope outdated. I believed that regardless of status, basic respect was essential when asking for help. Chunxing quickly realized his attitude had alienated me and acknowledged his own mistake. Fortunately, Huang Sui mediated, preventing a fallout that would have wasted everyone's time. Comrade Su Yu, I apologize for my attitude. I know you are capable. Please help me save these people. I am deeply grateful. As a lieutenant colonel, Chunxing knew how to swallow his pride to achieve his goal of finding the missing people. He was desperate. His sister and his former superior's children were among the missing. He would endure any insult to save them. These compound youths were privileged but prone to trouble, often bonding through activities like hunting. Seeing me unmoved, Chunxing prepared to bow. I stopped him, acknowledging that while Chin's initial attitude was poor, I didn't want to be petty. However, I refused to be bullied. I wasn't a pushover, and escalating the conflict would benefit no one. Stop that. Also, how are you so sure I can find them? I was confident but cautious, refusing to make absolute promises. You went to the cliff edge, so you must have a method. You're a hunter. I'm sure you have unique tracking skills. In this era, extraordinary talents, like Qigong masters, were not unheard of, so tracking skills were plausible. My hesitation made Chunxing even more certain that I was the key to finding his sister. Chunxing turned to Huang Sui to plead his case. I don't understand the details, but they are begging for help. If you can save those 8 lives, please do. Moved by Chunxing's desperation and reminded of her own brothers, Huang Sui felt compelled to intervene. She spoke up, driven by empathy. Huang Sui didn't want to interfere in my decisions, but she couldn't ignore the situation. I, who hated trouble, was swayed by my wife's request. My wife asked me to help, so I will. But I can't guarantee success, and my services aren't cheap. I demanded tangible compensation, rejecting empty promises or favors that could be rescinded. I insisted on a clear transactional relationship to avoid future misunderstandings. I didn't believe in the pricelessness of human favors between strangers. Promises of eternal gratitude were, to me, meaningless. Don't worry, I'll pay whatever it takes to find my sister. Do you think money can buy my help? Chunxing realized his mistake and promised. If you find my sister, you are my brother. I will risk my life to help you in the future. I accepted this with a smile, though I knew such promises were often temporary. It was enough for now. I didn't need to be a vampire, just secure a future favor. I had my own needs, such as my brother-in-law's employment, and this connection would be useful. Fine, let's go. The longer we wait, the harder it will be. Chunxing was relieved and led the way. I reassured Huang Shan, who felt guilty for the trouble. I didn't blame Huang Shan. My brother-in-law simply lacked the social experience to handle someone like Chunxing. Huang Shan had good intentions, and I agreed that saving 8 lives was the right thing to do. Chunxing noted my low profile, loyalty to family, and integrity. The group returned to Huangjia village and headed for the cliff, with me carrying my rifle for safety. Huang Shan, Huang Hai, Chunxing, and Su Xiaoping joined the expedition. At the base of the cliff, they met 20 of Chunxing's friends from the city. These compound youths were familiar with firearms and accustomed to the rough-and-tumble life of the era. They frequently clashed with local street gangs, as both groups were often idle. Chunxing introduced me as the expert and the Huang brothers as local guides. This was the formal introduction. I acknowledged the group with a nod. One of the men offered their full support. They trusted Chunxing's judgment. I don't need help yet. Chunxing, show me where you found the rifles. Despite the darkness, they used flashlights to lead me to the recovery sites. They showed me the bushes where the first rifle was found. 3 rifles were found, meaning they likely still have 5. I knelt at the site, attempting to use my tracking skill to reconstruct the events. I failed. The site had been trampled by the searchers, obscuring the original tracks. Let's check the other locations. They moved to the next site, hundreds of meters away. The second site was also compromised, but I looked for undisturbed ground nearby to determine the group's trajectory. By connecting the locations of the discarded rifles, I hoped to deduce their path. I quickly discovered footprints in the grass that did not belong to their group, confirming they belonged to the missing persons. Although the others didn't understand my actions, they deferred to Chunxing, who remained silent and trusted me. I activated my simulation ability, projecting a vision of 8 people, 6 men and 2 women, fleeing in distress, one of them injured. The group appeared to be arguing before heading off in a specific direction. "Follow me," I commanded, tracking the simulated figures step by step. The group followed blindly, confused by my lack of explanation after my brief moment of staring into space. Chun Sheng remained silent, so the others followed, their rifles at the ready. Huang Shan and Huang Hai flanked me, protecting me while I focused on tracking. After walking for kilometers, the group began to complain, suspecting I was wandering aimlessly. I couldn't explain that I had to physically retrace the exact path of the simulation, which functioned like a slow-moving recording. Given it was the evening of the third day, the distance the missing group had covered was immense. I sped up the simulation slightly, prompting Chun Sheng to ask if I had found anything. With the group growing restless, Chun Sheng felt pressured to demand an update. I retorted sharply, "Just follow. If you don't trust me, find someone else." I refused to waste time, determined to finish the search before nightfall. "Of course, I trust you," Chun Sheng replied quickly. Chun Sheng continued to follow, though others began to lag behind, only moving when I strayed too far. The group stayed out of loyalty to Chun Sheng, despite their exhaustion. I spotted blood in the grass, and Chun Sheng realized the group had been scattered by a wolf pack. No one questioned the deduction, despite the grim implications. I organized the group into pairs to search the surrounding area. I instructed them to use specific gunshot signals. 1 for a general signal, 2 for finding a target, and 5 for an emergency. I assigned each pair a specific direction. The group complied, recognizing that a radial search pattern was logical. I directed them based on the paths I saw in my simulation, ensuring they would eventually intersect with the missing people. This assumed the missing were still alive and capable of signaling. Chun Sheng confirmed the orders, emphasizing the use of compasses to maintain their headings. With Chun Sheng's command, the search began. "Which way are we going?" Chun Sheng asked. I asked if the 2 women were Chun Sheng's sister and the granddaughter of his former superior. Chun Sheng confirmed, noting the news hadn't reached the superior yet. I asked who he prioritized finding first. Chun Sheng hesitated, but I didn't press him, heading toward the location of the sister I had identified in my simulation. I decided to prioritize the sister to maintain my bond with Chun Sheng, planning to rescue the other woman immediately after. I moved with incredible speed, leaving Huang Shan and Huang Hai far behind. Using my parkour skills, I navigated the dense thorns easily, while Chun Sheng struggled to keep pace. "Why did you stop? Are we lost?" Chun Sheng panted. I pointed ahead, my expression serious. Chun Sheng saw a ragged girl crouching on the ground, eating wild mushrooms. She burst into tears upon seeing them. "Ran, don't cry. I'm here," Chun Sheng shouted. Chun Sheng rushed to her, ignoring the thorns that cut his arms and legs, and pulled her into an embrace. The girl, Chun Shaoran, limped and spat out the raw mushrooms. She sobbed about being unable to find the path, and Chun Sheng comforted her while checking her injuries. I arrived and inspected her leg, noting the torn clothing. "It's a sprain, but she needs a full checkup after eating those wild plants," I advised. I warned that raw, unwashed mushrooms could lead to poisoning. "Yes, I'll take you back immediately," Chun Sheng insisted. I thought to myself that Chun Sheng was forgetting his mission and the consequences of returning empty-handed. "Take her to safety, but we must continue searching for the others," I urged. Huang Shan and Huang Hai arrived, and Chun Sheng questioned his sister about the others. 2 gunshots echoed in the distance, the signal that others had been found. Chun Sheng carried his sister while asking for details, though she knew little beyond the chaos of the wolf attack. "Leave her with someone to guard her, and let's keep moving," I ordered. Chun Shaoran, though scared, understood the necessity of the mission. I didn't wait for Chun Sheng, who was distracted by his sister, and sprinted toward the sound of the shots. Chun Sheng watched me leave, choosing to stay with his sister for the night despite the urgency. I didn't wait for him, unwilling to be slowed down by sentimentality. Freed from Chun Sheng, I sprinted after the simulated figure. "Brother, will sisterly be okay?" Li Qiran had accompanied Chun Shaoran. Possessing a formidable background, she only came because she insisted. Chun Sheng felt guilty, though he never expected things to spiral this far. "She'll be fine. Tell me, Ran, how did you end up at the bottom of the cliff? Without the criminals, they should have been safe. Why go down, and why couldn't they climb back up?" Even if the women struggled, the 6 men, including 2 former soldiers, should have had the physical fitness to climb. We found a skull at the edge. Dabin joked around and tossed it to Sister Lee, who was too scared to catch it. It fell down the cliff. Sister Lee is Buddhist. She feared nightmares if she didn't bury the skull, feeling guilty for desecrating the remains. We found a slope to descend without ropes. Zhang Long, one of the soldiers, suggested tying belts together to climb down, claiming he could climb back up and pull us. It wasn't strange for a soldier to know climbing. He likely wanted to show off for the girls. Then what? Why did you all go down? The rope snapped, Zhang Long fell, and we had to slide down the slope to save him. We almost rescued him, but the people holding the rope slipped, and everyone slid down the steep slope, losing the rope in the process. Who's there? A figure emerged in the moonlight. Carrying the missing Li Qiran. What happened? Is she okay? High fever, shock, and exhaustion. She's stable for now, but needs a hospital immediately. I'll arrange it. Take my sister too. I'll leave this to you. I owe you a big meal. I nodded. Brother-in-law, go with him. I'll bring the others back to the village first. I relented, knowing the 2 brothers were overprotective of their sister and wouldn't leave her side. Huang Shan, Huang Hai, Qin Sheng, Qin Shaoran, and the unconscious Li Qiran reached the cliff. I climbed up first and hoisted everyone else. Using a sturdy climbing rope Qin Sheng had prepared, my immense strength made the rescue swift. Go on, let my brother-in-law escort you back. Be careful. Huang Shan carried Li Qiran, Chun Sheng carried his sister, and Huang Hai led with a rifle as I descended to find the others. I met one of the searchers who had already located someone. With other areas empty, I spent the rest of the night searching every direction myself. By dawn, I found everyone. One man had a broken leg. I didn't ask how he survived the wolves. They returned to Huangjia village. The 6 men, starving after 3 days, devoured all of my dried meat and water. Give them ginger brown sugar water to warm up, then light food. Once they recover, take the ox cart to the hospital. My orders were followed, and the group settled at Huang Shan's home. By dawn, everyone had eaten and warmed up. They had finally escaped the brink of starvation and dehydration. Despite the falls and wolves, they were lucky to survive, likely due to the deterrent effect of their firearms. The dense gunfire from 6 men was enough to scare off any wolf pack. Tell Chun Sheng I've completed the mission. I'm heading home. My family will be worried. I waved goodbye, leaving the others to handle the hospital transport. I returned home to breakfast with Huang Sui. I ate heartily, refusing sleep. Did you find them? She asked. Yes. Why are you cooking? I told you to sleep at the old courtyard. I did, but I knew you'd come back, so I made breakfast. I smiled and patted her head. Meanwhile, at the city hospital, Li Qiran woke up after an 4 drip. Chun Sheng bought her food, and she regained her strength. She asked about the rescue, feeling immense gratitude toward the expert who saved her life. The mountain's extreme temperature fluctuations would have killed her within another day. Can you take me to thank him when I recover? Chun Sheng nodded. By the way, where's the skull I was carrying? It was a bizarre sight. A beautiful lady like Li Qiran had tied a skull to her back. Don't worry, I brought it back. I'll go retrieve it if it was left at the cliff. Chun Sheng didn't believe in ghosts, but he valued moral decency. He would ensure the remains were handled properly. Li Qiran felt relieved. It was ironic that she could carry a skull, but was terrified by wolves. Qin Shaoran slept soundly in the next bed, exhausted from the ordeal. Life continued in different directions. Unable to sleep, I joined Huzi to head back into the mountains. Brother Yu, where are we going? Swan Lake. It's April, migration season. Even if we don't get many swans, there will be wild duck and swan eggs. Huzi drooled at the thought of eggs. Eggs were a rare luxury in these times, as most poultry was sold for income rather than consumed. Pigs were small and lean due to a lack of grain, and meat or eggs were rarely seen on the table. Some collectives used cow manure and chaff to feed pigs, but it was a struggle. We're here. Look at all those swans. We're rich. I asked, how's your bolt action speed? Swans fly at the first shot. Speed was essential for a successful hunt. Don't worry, I can get 3 shots off at this distance. They crept through the reeds, left and right, on my signal. I moved to the other side, checked my rifle, and held up 3 fingers to count down. Bang! The silence shattered, followed by a flurry of gunfire. I fired rapidly, my speed blurring as I unleashed my marksmanship. Huzi kept pace, though he lacked a system, relying instead on muscle memory honed through constant practice. While Huzi had trained specifically after being spurred by a wild boar hunt in Huangjia village, I had never practiced manual bolt action. I relied entirely on the system's instilled experience and muscle memory to maintain my blistering speed. Haha, I got 3. Huzi cheered. Huzi noted that swans were slow to take flight compared to other birds, making them easier targets. Their weight hindered their takeoff, allowing for easy hits, though retrieving them required a long trek. Good progress. Remember where they fell, or you'll be wasting your effort, I cautioned. Huzi strode toward the nearest swan, just tens of meters away. I easily located my own kills by tracking the scent of blood, far outpacing Huzi. Crap, brother, you help. Huzi suddenly shouted, and I sprinted toward him. Stop. It's a swamp. Don't come closer. Find a stick. If you get stuck too, we're both finished. I sighed. Are you stupid? What's that on your back? Why do you need a stick? Huzi realized he had forgotten the rope I always made him carry. Huzi tied the rope around his waist and tossed the other end to me. With the mud past his knees, Huzi struggled until my strength finally hauled him to safety. Gasping for air, Huzi exclaimed, "That was close. If you'd arrived any later, I'd be a goner." I rolled my eyes, sat on the grass, and tossed Huzi a cigarette. Smoke? To celebrate your second life. I lit my own and threw the matches to Huzi. Though Huzi didn't smoke, the near-death experience made him accept the offer to calm his nerves. He coughed violently after a puff. So harsh, what's the point of this? Ignoring him, I fashioned a loop with the rope and cast it toward Huzi's swan. After 3 attempts, I snagged a wing and dragged the swan to shore. There's your swan. Remember where the third one is? I'll go grab it. Huzi sat on the ground, smoking and pointing out the location. I used my tracking skill to navigate safely around the swampy terrain. I returned with the swan, noting that Huzi's marksmanship on moving targets showed real dedication. Here, get up, clean off the mud, and let's look for eggs. Huzi was a mess, covered in mud and missing a shoe. Wait, I need to find my shoe. Huzi insisted. I can crawl over to distribute my weight, and you can pull me with the rope, Huzi suggested. I agreed. Walking back barefoot to Sanchuan would be impossible given the thorny terrain. It was merely a mud pit, not a true swamp, or Huzi would have been buried much deeper. Fine, tie yourself up and go. I sat and smoked, holding the rope while Huzi crawled toward the mud. I mocked Huzi's ridiculous posture as he dug for the shoe. Huzi eventually retrieved the shoe from the shallow mud. He wiped it with dry grass and put it back on. I grabbed my 5 swans, and they continued, Huzi now cautiously probing the ground with a stick. Found it, look here. I discovered a nesting site filled with wild duck eggs. Are these swan eggs? Huzi asked. Hardly. Swans don't usually lay eggs during migration, but maybe a few were careless, I joked. Huzi laughed. Regardless of the species, they were eggs. Such nests were rare, as many were raided by predators like snakes. The pair spent the day gathering a large haul of eggs from various nesting spots. Wait, we didn't bring sacks. How are we carrying these? The April harvest was much larger than their previous trip in February. Don't worry, I buried some sacks nearby on a previous trip, I lied. In reality, I pulled the sacks from my system storage, where I kept various survival gear. I returned shortly with 2 sacks and handed one to Huzi. You came here alone and didn't tell me? And you hid the sacks? Huzi complained. I used them to sit on and buried them. I forgot until now. I brushed it off. It was a flimsy excuse, but it sufficed. Huzi, being simple-minded, didn't press the issue. Should we separate them or put them together? Separate them now to save time later. Put the swans in too, I directed. They packed the eggs and the heavy swans into their respective sacks. Huzi's load totaled nearly 70 pounds. My load was even heavier, as I had prioritized the largest birds. While Huzi shot whatever he saw, I had selectively targeted the fattest swans. My total haul weighed over 130 pounds. Let's take a detour and see if we can bag more game. Their haul was decent, but paled in comparison to the previous trip. Huzi agreed, indifferent to the extra distance. Huzi carried 70 pounds, Though heavy, he was a grown man with a solid diet and could handle the extra trek. I, however, carried my 130-pound sack with one hand, not even bothering to shoulder it. They bypassed Swan Lake, heading into the forest to hunt for additional game. I stopped, set my sack down, and crept forward with my rifle. Hoosie saw nothing, but he was used to it. I often shot game from distances Hoosie couldn't even perceive. Hoosie attributed my success to innate talent and luck. A gunshot rang out. Hoosie didn't follow. He stayed behind to guard the sacks, having long since lost interest in my mysterious long-range hunting. I returned with a fat rabbit. Hoosie sighed. You always find the game while I see nothing. I realized the oddity of my performance, but was relieved by Hoosie's easygoing nature. Stop complaining. I'll give you a rabbit to stew tonight. Hoosie grinned, accepting the offer. Hoosie didn't mind taking the rabbit, just as I didn't mind borrowing Hoosie's family heirloom bow. That Tusher bow was a rare antique. Few in the village knew how to craft such things anymore. In the countryside, hunting gear was usually homemade. My and Hoosie's rifles were considered quite luxurious. Most hunters targeted small game. Larger animals like wild boars were rare, and homemade shotguns sufficed for most encounters. Shotguns were forgiving. Within 50 meters, the lead shot spread ensured a hit without precise aiming. Let's head back. They returned to Sanchuan, where I gave Hoosie a rabbit before heading home. Huang Sui was washing clothes in a large vat upon my return. I insisted she wash at home rather than the river, keeping a massive vat filled with water for her. I was protective of my beautiful wife, especially after the incident involving the educated youth, Su Jiqing. I'm back. Go fetch Lao Si and the others for rabbit stew tonight. Huang Sui hesitated. Should we send some to the old courtyard for your parents? I realized that bringing the younger siblings over might cause friction with the rest of the family. Fine, stew it all, and send a bowl over later. I wanted to avoid appearing like I was playing favorites or excluding my eldest brother's family. All right, skin the rabbits and I'll chop and stew them with chili. I had 4 rabbits and 2 pheasants left after giving 1 rabbit to Hoosie. Why prepare the pheasants too? We can't eat all that. I'm sending some to third uncle. I need to butter him up before the factory job assignments are finalized. Huang Sui smiled, admiring my thoughtfulness. You always take care of everyone. I shrugged. I simply believed in repaying third uncle's past kindness. Using my butchery skills, I quickly processed the game, leaving the cooking to my wife. At mealtime, Huang Sui delivered a bowl of meat to the old courtyard. I brought another to third uncle's house, where Su Daong greeted me. For Yaya, I clarified. Inside, I found Su Xiaotong, third uncle's daughter, studying diligently. She greeted me with surprise. I patted her head and left the meat, speaking to Su Daong in third uncle's absence. I know third uncle wants you to take the Gao Cow, but if you want a factory job, I'll help you. We're brothers. I wanted to be clear to avoid any future resentment. Su Daong replied, I know. My parents are set on us taking the Gao Cow. Xiaodong should be ready by the time it returns. I knew the wait would be longer than they expected, but I didn't want to discourage their academic pursuits. I feigned ignorance about the timeline, supporting the common belief that the exam would return soon. Don't rush. Even if you work, you can still study for the exams. Resources in their county were scarce, making self-study difficult. My parents won't agree to me working. Give the spot to someone else. Su Daong had been working hard for years, and obtaining study materials was a difficult, connection-based process. Third uncle's investment in their education was significant. He wouldn't trade their future for a low-paying factory job. I nodded and left, choosing not to reveal the true timeline of the Gao Cow to avoid offending my uncle. Back home, I and Huang Sui enjoyed the spicy rabbit meat. After dinner, they retired for the night. The next morning, Hoosie arrived to help sell the game, as the swan meat needed to be processed quickly. It's less than 200 pounds. Let's take the bike. I'll put the sacks on the handlebars. Hoosie agreed, wanting to avoid the hassle of borrowing a donkey cart. I had already carefully packed the duck eggs in a cushioned basket. They tied the sacks to the bike's frame, securing them for the trip. Will this get in the way of steering? Hoosie asked. I shook my head. It would be manageable. Bring your rabbit skins too. We'll sell them all at once. They loaded the accumulated skins and set off for the county town. Brother you, why aren't we going to the steel mill? Hoosie asked, confused by the change in plans. The steel mill pays standard meat prices and can't handle large quantities of game, especially as the weather warms up. But swans are rare. They aren't just common wild ducks. Someone who knows their value will pay a premium. In a few years, these would be protected species, but for now, they were still fair game until the 1989 Wildlife Protection Law. Swan meat was considered a delicacy with a touch of mystery. I took Huzi directly to the city to sell to high-end restaurants, bypassing the local county. While the distance was long, my stamina made the bike ride feel like a simple race. After scouting prices at smaller shops, I targeted the city's premier restaurants. I gathered intelligence on the best establishments by chatting with local clerks while buying cigarettes. I sought the restaurant that left the deepest impression on the locals. With my silver tongue, I sold the swans for 160 yuan, while Huzi earned 84 yuan. At 1.2 yuan per caddy, the restaurants could still profit by reselling at 1.5 to 2 yuan. I didn't mind their markup. I just needed a fair deal. In an era where pork cost 0.8 yuan, selling swan meat for 1.2 yuan was a testament to my negotiation skills. Given the local market, pushing for a higher price would have made the meat impossible to sell. Not a bad haul for a few dozen kilometers, I noted, satisfied with the 160 yuan. My total savings now exceeded 4,000 yuan. Selling to the steel mill would have been a massive loss compared to this. Let's head to the department store. I need to buy Huang Sui a new outfit. Huzi sighed and climbed onto the back of the bike. The city's state-run department store offered far better variety and quality than the county shops. Brother you, is that Chunsheng over there? I looked over to see Chunsheng shopping with two young women. Hey, old Chun. Huzi's shout drew stares, but Chunsheng spotted them and walked over. After a brief word with his companions, Chunsheng approached. Hello? What brings you two to the city? You should have called me. I had Chunsheng's contact info, but had no intention of using it for favors. We didn't want to intrude on your plans. We're just here to shop. I clapped him on the shoulder, our bond solidified by our previous rescue mission. The two women joined them. This is Li Qiuran and her friend Wang Tang. Chunsheng introduced. You're Suyu? Chunsheng told me you saved us. I've been meaning to thank you properly. Comrade Suyu, it's an honor. Thank you for saving my life. I shook her hand briefly, maintaining a polite distance. I'm Suyu. Meeting here is fate, but I'm hosting a meal for you later. No refusals. Li Qiuran was elegant and striking, fitting the aesthetic of the time perfectly. Yet, I sensed she was dangerous. I recalled how she had strategically hidden herself while unconscious to avoid predators. Carrying a skull as a memento suggested she was not a woman to be trifled with. I wanted to avoid complex entanglements with high-status, potentially cold-blooded individuals. I didn't want to be drawn into their world, fearing the consequences of getting too close. A meal isn't necessary. I need to shop for my wife, and you should rest, comradely. I hoped the hint to leave was clear. That won't do. My grandfather taught me to repay debts. If I don't thank my savior, I'll be scolded for being rude. You wouldn't want my grandfather to be angry, would you? Her persistence, backed by Chunsheng's encouragement, left me with little choice but to agree. I didn't want to turn a good deed into a grudge. Fine, let me finish shopping first. I and Huzi headed to the women's section, leaving Li Qiuran watching us. Qiuran, why are you so insistent on this meal? Her friend asked. It was out of character for her. A life-saving debt must be repaid. Is that so strange? Li Qiuran replied with a smile. Wang Tang let it go. Arrange the meal, then. Chunsheng, who knew Li Qiuran well, nodded and went to make the arrangements. Booking a meal via the store phone was simple enough. Brother you, are we really going to eat with them? Huzi felt out of his depth with people like Li Qiuran, whose words felt layered with hidden meanings. Her background and aura made him deeply uncomfortable. She wouldn't let us leave otherwise. It's just a meal, not a trap. Don't worry. I bought 2 outfits each for my wife, mother, and sister-in-law. The prices were steep, but the quality was superior. I didn't mind the cost, and Huzi followed suit, buying gifts for his own family. Li Qiuran and Wang Tang tried to help, and when Li Qiuran insisted on paying, I firmly resisted.